At CRTV, at Michaela Malkinat must see at Michaela Malkinat and plans on holding a town hall on gun control tonight, but aware. They have a sordid and long history of rigging town halls with phony plans. These are biased political events, not journalistic exercises. More.
For the past week, the network has been lambasting the NRA, gun owners, and Republicans who oppose radical and ineffectual gun control policies. You can bet that school shooting survivors who support armed guards and concealed carry policies will take a back seat to the more strident anti-Trump voices demanding the most extreme gun-grabbing policies. I would also remind you that CNN has a long history of rigging its town halls with phony plants and Democrat operatives to push left-wing agendas. At the CNN Democrat debate in Las Vegas in 2007, the network tried to pass off as undecided voters a former Arkansas Democratic Director of Political Affairs, the president of the Islamic Society of Nevada, and a far-left anti-war activist who'd been quoted in newspapers lambasting Harry Reid for his failure to pull out of Iraq. At a GOP debate,
New poll majority
CNN's
of voters
town hall
think Trump won't release
undecided
Texas
voters
because he has something to
included
hide.
Participants
At Marcus. How the Washington Post memorialized the greatest evangelist of a modern age, Billy Graham. Liberals are cancerous rats. At TT45 pack. When that alert goes off, ampersand they put the kids in the closets, ampersand they put the kids under the desks. Then I want the teacher to open that safe, pull out that firearm, ampersand be ready to do what needs to be done. Part 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Curtis Kelly. I represent Thurgood Marshall Academy here in the District of Columbia. Thank you, Vice President, Madam Secretary, for having myself and Gregory Baldwin, who represent Thurgood Marshall. My tragedy started September the 20th of last year, where I have two twin sons that attend Thurgood Marshall, and they are elite athletes, Junior Olympics. One of my sons was a youth council member for the District of Columbia in Ward 5, and one day this is after school. Now I agree we need to protect our kids in schools, but we need to protect them on their safe passageways home as well, and their extracurricular activities and their parks and recreations and everything that they try to go for their peace in. So my son Zaire Kelly went to college bound right after school to announce that he was declaring for his college to run track and to further his education and become mayor of District of Columbia or something like that. On his route home, he got a text from my son Zion Kelly, who was going to make it, but when he found out there was press, he decided not to. Because locally we were burnt by the press.
On Wednesday, CNN legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin decided to attack the idea of giving school teachers guns by lying about President Trump's Esposito. At American Eagle 0. An Eagle's view while in flight test gives you different feeling.
Was the first modern Olympics?
Too easy. Summer 1896.
We'll see. Hey Google, when was the first Olympics?
April 6th, 1896.
Told ya.
You said summer. April, my darling, is in the spring. Score one for Johnny. The comeback is on. One more.
At St. Warren. This is what democracy looks like. Gonna phone no.
I like to say we're the generation of the future, we're the generation of change, we're the generation that can vote. With students, we should be allowed to focus on our education. We shouldn't have to focus on whether or not someone's going to walk in our doors and, shoot us down.
This is what democracy looks like! Tell me what democracy looks like!
This is what lives being lost of innocent children that all they want to do is go to school and get an education. We need gun reform. We need change. We know we can't bring back the 17 lost victims in Florida, but we can make sure it doesn't happen again.
At Magic Poop Cannon. Whoever hit me with a Litecoin airdrop today, thank you. Magic. At Marty Fox. At Charlie Kirk 11 yo. Here is a message to the gun confiscation left from at Charlie Kirk 11 you know what would have prevented the Parkland shooting of be doing it as job Kilthaner Mark for our lives. At News. Reporter, what would you say to students calling for a ban on assault rifles? Florida Governor cut the process to get whatever you want accomplished in the legislative processes. You got to work hard at it.
Get denied, started crying. What would you say to them who are calling for that?
It's horrible what happened last Wednesday. It's despicable that anybody could do that. But you travel the state, you talk to people around the state, people are energized. The students are energized. They're going to be part of this political process. They need to be part of this political process. They're going to be part of this, of how we come to a solution here. We are going to come to a solution here. I want to thank them for being here. The process to get whatever you want accomplished in The legislative process is, you got to work hard at it. I can just tell you, I'm gonna work on behalf of all the citizens of the state, and I'm happy that students are coming up, parents are coming up.
At Torwell, please, it is time to stop.
Joining me now is Phil Levine. He's now the former mayor of Miami Beach. He just finished his term there, and he's now running for governor. Mr. Mayor, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right, you're on the air with ads. You're calling on the legislature. Let me ask you this. Why do paid ads now? Why Chuck, not focus your energy? I mean, why not focus your energy? Why did you want to do the TV advertising first? Say, focus your energy at the legislature.
Chuck, I'll tell you why. You just heard this guy right there, right? This elected leader. I mean, literally listening to him was kind of like when you watch the Charlie Brown special and the parents are talking and all you hear is wonk, 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 wonk. That's called Tallahassee political double talk. What he's basically saying to you, Chuck, as you know, he's saying, listen, I'm getting my NRA money, so don't even say the word ban on TV because they'll cut me off. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually come up with a program so we sell more guns, put more guns in school, and that will be the solution. When you and I both know that's not the solution. But a typical politician like this guy you just had on, that's all he can say. Because he's running for office, he wants a job, and it's unfortunate because kids are dying in our schools, and it's a shame. The positive thing is a great generation is arising. It's the new greatest generation. These kids are unbelievable.
Let me ask you this. Look, at the end of the day, you're going to say some things during the primary is one thing, but if you're elected governor, I know the state very well. It is a very diverse state in so many ways, culturally.
German film industry addresses gender inequality at the Berlinale Film DW 22.2018.
What's a realistic compromise that you think you could actually
totally tragicomic photos of everyday life in former East Germany RSDW 16.2018.
We have the weakest gun laws in the nation. What I would like to see happen, and I will not rest,
Champions League DG stars as Maynard Bra 0-0 with Sevilla Friends 24.
I'm not only a gun owner, I have a concealed weapons permit. I'm not against the Second Amendment. I have a gun myself, and I'm not against people having weapons, but we need safe ownership of weapons. Number one, we must have a complete restriction on these assault rifles. They're for assaults. By the way, they talk about if all the teachers have guns, then if they come in, they'll be able to protect themselves. Really? I'd like to see a teacher protect himself with a gun when someone's coming in with an armory of assault weapons. That won't be much protection. Number two, what we need to do is we need to make sure we have absolute better background checks. Number three, if you have mental illness, You should not be able to buy a gun. That's what we want to hear.
Inside the Mueller indictment, the Russian novel Lovins required.
Those young people, that's what they want to hear. On Monday morning, I'll be leading a major rally in Tallahassee with the Florida Women's March and about a
what
bunch
the
of political
record-setting
parties
success of
from
Black
all
Panther
across
means
the
for the
state,
future of
because
movies wired.
we want action.
What do you say? And one of the things that State Representative Fan, I think, would retort to you, it's like, you could ban the AR-15 all you want, it's everywhere. It's the number one long rifle. I mean, it is, what are you going to do with all of the weapons that are already out there?
Well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to make an existing problem
Earl
worse by
anti-social app
selling
addresses
more
teen
of them
tech
and
addiction.
putting them on the market. That's basic common sense. Obviously, he's in the business of selling
Cryptocurrency
weapons
exchanges
because
look
the
to
more
speed up
weapons he can
Bitcoin
promote, the more
transactions.
cash he can get from the NRA, and then he can keep his job. God forbid that gentlemen like that ever became our Attorney General.
Can you realistically, though, when you look at what's happened in Chicago,
raising interest rates is like starting an efficient chain reaction zero hedge.
Laws, and they will sit there and say, yeah, we do, but the problem is Gary, Indiana, you can funnel plenty of guns into Chicago from Gary, Indiana. So you might be able to have the toughest gun laws in the country. But if the federal government, if it's not a shared federal government law, what are you going to do?
Chuck, you're 100% correct, but it doesn't mean we can't start with our state. When I watch the president there, and I see the president said everything but what we wanted to hear him to say was, I am going to, as the commander-in-chief, I'm going to restrict and ban assault rifles in our country. I'm going to do the right thing. He didn't say that, anything. He didn't even tell you how he's going to have better background checks. What he did is spent an hour, and as we know, what he's going to do is, like he's done everything else, is absolutely nothing. And it's a shame. The country needs change.
All right, Phil Levine, former mayor of Miami Beach, Democratic candidate for governor. Thanks for coming on and sharing your views, sure. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
South Korea has spent $220,000 on Kim Jong-un's sister at Olympics.
Disgraced Lindsey Vonn just sent sick threat to Trump after being denied WH visit after huge loss. The 2018 Winter Games weren't what U.S. downhill skier and former gold medalist Lindsey Vonn expected. She paved her way to Pyeongchang with hateful verbal attacks and demands for President Donald Trump, proudly wearing a massive chip.
Performing digital audit. I found this in the dark corners of the internet. It was very scary. Russia surpasses China with massive gold purchases in January /0 hedge. Check this out. With a recognized top in the US dollar, it appears clear that renewed bull markets have begun across the commodity sector. He admitted illegal activity when he was in Washington, and that was used to justify a search in Indiana. Authored by Louis Comrasanov via Smallgold.com. Russian central bank gold reserves rise to 1,857 tons in January, passing People's Bank of China's 1,843 ton gold hoard. Russian gold reserves are now the fifth largest in the world. German film festival #Berlin & Beyond kicks off in San Francisco. Film DW 092.2018. Check these digits. The week-long festival organized by the Goethe Institute is the largest of its kind in the US and outside of Europe. Director Fatih's recent Golden Globe win within the Fade has boosted interest in German film. Over 10,000 visitors are expected to attend the 22nd Berlin & Beyond Film Festival in San Francisco, according to the event organizers at the city's Goethe Institute. The festival, which will screen 18 contemporary German-language films from Germany, Austria and Switzerland, runs from February 9-15. The festival describes itself as a gateway for the public to experience the diversity, history and progress of German-speaking countries, while celebrating the universal spirit and vision of filmmakers. Interest in German film from the United States continues to grow thanks to the recent multiple Oscar nominations for German filmmakers, as well as director Fatih's 2018 Golden Globe win for Best Foreign Language Film with his film In the Fade, Aus dem Nichts. Germany. Past and present. Wow. Militants from Chechnya and the North Caucasus were estimated at around 4,000 in Syria at their peak. Despite their small numbers, they've had a meaningful influence on the jihadi scene in the country, according to intelligence analyst Niall Hauer. Bill Gates has paid $10 billion in taxes and says he should pay more. I found this scraping the internet. I feel so dirty now. Billionaire Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates is worth an estimated $91.8 billion, and he pays billions in taxes to the federal government. But he says he should be paying even more. I need to pay higher taxes, he told CNN's Fareed Zakaria during a recent interview. I've paid more taxes, over $10 billion, than anyone else, but the government should require people in my position to pay significantly higher taxes. Gates' comments came on the heels of a criticism of 2017's GOP tax reform. It was not a progressive tax bill, it was a regressive tax bill, he told Zakaria. People who are wealthier tend to get dramatically more benefits than the middle class or those who are poor. It runs counter to the general trend you'd like to see, where the safety net is getting stronger and those at the top are paying higher taxes. Fellow billionaire Warren Buffett agrees. I don't think I need a tax cut, Buffett told CNBC regarding reform efforts. Found the juicy. Although much has been written about Syrian refugee women in Turkey being sold into marriage, little is known of the Syrian men selling themselves in wedlock. Two such refugees share their stories to shed light on what they say is a growing trend. At the Russophophile. Eratosthenes is most widely known as the famous Greek mathematician SQ 276-195 BCE. Way before NASA and Hollywood existed, he found the circumference. At Infidelin, Trump has script notes at the listening session 4. Nod head, as if I understand what is being said. 5. I hear you. No human being who actually gives a shit needs notes like these when dealing with tragedy. Obama never did.
Honor to have you here. We're going to be listening to some of your suggestions. I've heard some of them. And we're going to do something about this horrible situation that's going on. And we're going to all figure it out together. So I want to listen, and then after I listen, we're going to get things done. I thought we'd start off, Pastor, if you could possibly say the prayer, would be appreciated. Thank you.
At Eric Garland. Thread here is why this Russian intelligence operation has required the characterization of complex analysis as conspiracy theory.
Heartbreaking videos appear to show a scorched earth campaign. Syrian white helmet rescuers desperately trying to free victims under the rubble. After an assault that is both total and pitiless by President Bashar al-Assad's regime on a rebel-held suburb of Damascus. Most of the victims, children.
Save the children of Ghouta before it's too late.
Syrian activists who posted these videos say government forces are bombing indiscriminately. Homes and clinics under attack. This is the same suburb where 4 years ago the U.S. says the Assad regime used chemical weapons to kill more than 1,000 people. Today, one of Assad's generals seemed to take pride in the current operation, calling it a lesson in combat and fire from which there would be no rescue. Richard Engel, NBC News.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
News and current affairs from Germany and around the world. DW.
Moi, ça fait 17 ans que je suis là. Ça fait 17 ans que je suis là. Donc,
Italy warns of influence campaigns ahead of key elections. News DW 21.2018.
Derrière les papiers et tout ça. Donc, vraiment, nous demandons d'être rétablis dans nos droits. C'est tout ce que nous demandons.
Far-right trolls active on social media before German election. Research. News DW 21.2018.
C'est dépaysé. Ça fait longtemps que je ne suis pas là-bas. Bon, donc, voilà, être régularisé.
New York prosecutor sues Harvey Weinstein's studio ahead of reported sale. News DW 22.2018.
Il y a une hypocrisie. Ils ont besoin de la main-d'œuvre. Donc, ils n'ont qu'à nous régulariser. Pour les centres de rétention, la durée de rétention était de 45 jours. Aujourd'hui, cette durée de rétention passe de 45 à 135 jours. C'est inadmissible, c'est pas possible. On ne peut pas être là-bas, on n'a rien fait. Notre seule faute, c'est d'être sans papier. Donc, être détenu pendant 135 jours.
Winter Olympics 2018. The physics of blazing fast bobsled runs wired.
C'est pas normal.
You don't need a personal genetics test to take charge of your health. Wired. Totally tragicomic photos of everyday life in former East Germany. RSDW 16.2018.
Quelqu'un qui a fait une demande pour être réfugié politique, si sa demande est rejetée, il peut demander un titre de séjour pour soins s'il est malade, ce qui évite que des personnes soient renvoyées vers des pays où elles n'auront pas accès au traitement. Aujourd'hui, si le projet de loi passe tel qu'il est rédigé actuellement, les personnes ne pourront plus faire cette demande et on va avoir contre quoi on se mobilise depuis des années, des gens qui sont expulsés vers des pays où il n'y a aucun accès aux soins.
Measles cases soaring in Europe. Who warns News DW 19.2018.
Merci à tous et au courage.
De grève parce qu'en fait on combat la politique comptable qui est à l'œuvre avec ce projet de loi qui va encore contraindre et aggraver nos conditions de travail parce qu'on va devoir travailler plus vite alors qu'on a envie avant tout de rendre une justice de qualité qui est plus sereine. Et le fait qu'il y ait une réduction des délais et que notamment ça soit 6 mois pour l'ensemble de la procédure asile, pour nous ça nous semble inacceptable parce qu'à nouveau on va devoir travailler plus vite et moins bien et on a un peu l'impression qu'on confond justice et précipitation alors qu'on est des passionnés de l'asile, on a envie de faire notre travail de la meilleure façon possible pour rendre la justice une justice de qualité que méritent les demandeurs d'asile.
Donald delivers extreme Gulf of Mexico order, and liberals are scrambling. We may never understand
British
why
lawmakers
liberals
are
are so
launching an
opposed to
inquiry into
President Trump's plans.
cryptocurrencies.
He clearly wants to put Americans first.
How de-escalation zones in Syria became a war management strategy. Syria deeply.
And prosperity for everyone. Perhaps Democrats want Americans to fail. They have big, powerful, foreign donors who would profit if the United States suffered. Or perhaps they just don't want to see everyday citizens thrive. They are elitists, after all. Either way, they are sure to complain, after Trump made this landmark announcement about the Gulf of Mexico. From Conservative Tribune. Trump's Interior Department recently announced what stands to be a record-breaking sale of offshore oil and gas leases in the Gulf of Mexico, the largest such sale in U.S. history. The auction of the leases, scheduled to take place March 21st, would open up some 77.3 million acres to offshore drilling for oil and gas off the coasts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. It was estimated by the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management that the blocks up for sale contained potentially 210 million to 1.2 billion barrels of oil and from 550 million to 4.4 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Be sure that if a Democratic president landed this deal, the media would applaud it. But I'm guessing the hacks at CNN will find something at fault with Trump. I'm sure before a second passes, CNN will mention the Deepwater Horizon oil spill of 2010.
How Turkey's potential Afrin-push measures up against Syria
gas in the Gulf of Mexico is a bad idea, because of one accident 8 years ago. They will fail to mention that offshore drilling goes on around the world, with little incident. They will also fail to mention the oil spill happened on Obama's watch. Seems like environmentalists aren't even good at their job of protecting the earth. Let us not forget that the Deepwater Horizon tragedy, by the way, ignored hundreds of safety requirements leading to the spill.
News DW
and where were CNN and Obama then? Opening up this region to more drilling is a good thing. Yes, there are dangers, as in every industry. But when companies follow the laws and safety standards, the risk is low. Reports indicate that this will provide billions of more dollars in revenue for American companies. An influx of energy resources will also mean more competition and lower prices. Sure, OPEC might not like this news, but this is America. We have the right to harvest our resources for the betterment of our society.
MEETIS Yahoo News latest news and headlines.
I'm Selena Wang in San Francisco, and you're watching Bloomberg Technology. Let's start with a check of your first word news. President Trump is hosting students right now from the Florida high school that's recovering from a mass shooting. Groups representing survivors of the Sandy Hook and Columbine shootings are also in attendance. The shooting spree left 17 dead. Meanwhile, survivors of the shooting joined lawmakers at the state capitol in Tallahassee to demand action on gun violence.
I beg the people who deny this, if they want to
Trump on Twitter February 20th. Obama administration, America's elections, Texas.
Take away all of your guns, just the ones that are being used to kill innocent
Weather forecast pro them % local weather report online Sky News.
House Republicans dismissed an attempt Tuesday for a bill banning assault rifles.
Republicans will suit the block court on Pennsylvania congressional map.
Add $300 million in new FBI funds
Fresh
to
Nazi
government
songbook
spending
scandal hits
bill
Austrian
next
far-right
month.
Freedom Party News
They want the U.S. to bolster defenses
22.2018.
against foreign interference in elections and social media. Current government funding runs out March 23rd. World-renowned Christian evangelist Billy Graham has died at the age of 99. He's considered the most influential American preacher of the 20th century. Global news 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Selena Wang. This is Bloomberg Technology.
A timeline of a tightening siege in eastern Ghouta, Syria deeply. Michael Murazay, Russian cook Alex Jones info hours there is a warrant for your mind.
I'm Emily Chang, and this is Bloomberg Technology. Coming up, YouTube's faux pas. A crisis unfolds after a fake news video calling a Florida teen a crisis actor surges to the top of its trending page.
Too many stocks from one sector of an index is a danger sign.
Purge. We will look at factors feeding the outrage among some conservatives.
Parents and students plead with Trump how many children have to get shot. The New York Times.
But there's a catch. We'll explain. First, to our lead.
The Venezuelan socialist collapse explained Alex Jones info hours there is a warrant for your mind.
Suggested a teenage survivor of last week's Florida school shooting was a paid actor. It is the latest sign of Google's ongoing struggle to suppress fake news and conspiracy theories on its massive video site. The video shows David Hogg, a student who has spoken out for gun control after the attack that killed 17 in Parkland, Florida, in a Los Angeles TV news clip from last summer. A description of the video reads, David Hogg,
Trump
the
holds
actor,
listening session with students on mass shootings.
YouTube's algorithm suggested viewers watch a clip with similar
University
claims.
of Tokyo has flexible LED screen displays health information.
In a statement saying, quote, this video should never have appeared in trending. Because the video contained footage from an authoritative news source, our system misclassified it. Joining us now, Bloomberg Tech's Mark Bergen, who is covering this story for us. So first of all, what happened?
People have been kind of gaming Google for a long time, and someone found a new way to game the system, right? Someone had uploaded a video. It was a CBS clip, a verified news outlet. They uploaded it in the wave of these conspiracy theories about David Hogg, who's this Florida high school student who's been really outspoken. There's been this conspiracy theory that's taken off on the internet that he's actually a paid actor. And so what you have is what's happened in the past with Google is around breaking news is people create these videos with blatant misinformation, and they're kind of shot up to the top of the algorithm because people spend time on it and they share it. Google has a trending section that puts in this kind of algorithmically sets the most popular videos, and this one at one point this morning was the top trending video of the day.
So let's talk about what an authoritative source is and how someone actually gamed the system. And whether or not that's really a reliable way,
Dua Lipa and
in
Stormzy
this
when they
case
get the
certainly it was
breaks.
not, to categorize videos.
Right. I mean, Google's had this. You know, we talked about them earlier this fall, and they had this. They had a series of problems around breaking news. YouTube has always been
South Korea
sort of
has
their
spent
Achilles heel. For some reason,
$220,000
they're
on Kim
able to,
Jong-un's sister at Olympics.
implement fixes on Google Search and Google News much more readily than on YouTube. And their explanation has always been, we don't want to limit YouTube. We want it to be an open platform. We want anyone, that's the magic of YouTube, right? That's why it's so successful, is that anyone can upload a video and anyone can become a kind of a star creator.
Milo Ampersand PJW, the culture war Lex Jones info hours, there is a warrant for your mind.
Can put out a video that looks like it's real information. And in this case, it was an actual CBS video, but the
Let's take a look around. Found this nugget. How Middle East news outlets are reporting the Turkey-Syria war in Afrin Bar al-Bawaba. Now this is out there. Published February 21st, 2018, 14:49 GMT via Syndicate Info. A critical aspect of any armed confrontation is the information battle that through which it is framed. People with guns are either freedom fighters, militias, combatants, terrorists, or even civilians depending on the agenda of a news source. The problem of retrieving reliable information about quick, on-the-ground developments becomes compounded when there is a lack of independent media sources reporting events firsthand. After Syrian regime-backed forces entered into Afrin to protect Kurdish militias from Turkey, the propaganda machines of Turkey, Syria and Iran kicked into high gear to win the media battle of framing the issues. Although propaganda outlets do a grave disservice by manipulating details to serve a state, when they are put side by side to compare their coverage of the same issue, fascinating trends appear. Facts tell us one side of a story, but propaganda often arrange a mixture of facts, sentiments, and falsehoods to construct a sweeping narrative. For starters on Afrin, here are the basic facts. Automation. Automate the packaging and deployment of an application or update across the complete release life cycle. Bernie Sanders IVT, on Tuesday condemned Russian interference in the 2016 election that targeted Hillary Clinton, hours after suggesting her campaign. At Beard33 no, as if a David Hogg CNN interview could not get any stranger. It seems David did a hidden camera style live stream. Did you not trust the media? HMMM.
So I'm going to get us some questions really quick, and I'll be back.
Why don't you just go ahead and state, exactly, what had happened and what you had seen, what you had heard, or, and how you felt about it.
So, to take it from the top, around 2:30, we hear the first gunshot.
Right.
When we hear the first gunshot, we initially think it's a drill because other people had been saying that there was going to be an active shooter drill in the coming months because of all the mass shootings that we've had around the country lately. And we kind of presumed that's what it was because we had also had a fire drill earlier that day, or earlier this day. And as we were there, right after the first shot is fired, we tell my teacher, hey, we think we think we heard a gunshot, and she closes the door. Second she closes the door, fire alarm gets pulled. David Hogg, D-A-V-I-D, H-O-G-G, that's 2 G's, Hogg as in bacon, pig, swine, same pronunciation. So, my name is David Hogg.
At JOSHUGRUBBS PhD, guys, I am a college professor. I've also been shooting guns my entire life and own multiple guns now. I don't trust myself to be able to capably defend a classroom against a shooter, and I am a good shot. Why would we expect teachers everywhere to bear this responsibility? At Shakespeare Sexual. The road to Chica Shrine can eat my dick bodku.
Honor to have you here. We're going to be listening to some of your suggestions. I've heard some of them. And we're going to do something about this horrible situation that's going on. And we're going to all figure it out together. So I want to listen, and then after I listen, we're going to get things done. I thought we'd start off, Pastor, if you could possibly say the prayer, would be appreciated. Thank you.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We thank you for this day that you have given us. And Father, we just know that the things that have happened here in America, that there's something that you have planned, and it's going to be a great one. because we're going to get America back on track where it needs to be with our children, with our adults, everybody that's involved. And Father, I ask you right now that you would send your Holy Spirit that would comfort us through this time. And you said you would send
At Jaron Peterson. I firmly believe that President Obama, or at least till president, would be on that town hall stage now taking the heat, listening to ampersand comforting these children, ampersand parents as they tell their stories. He would comfort a breathing nation. Students stand up, Parkland students speak.
When we talked about doing effective background checks, it was resisted because the notion was we were going to take your guns away. I just came from a meeting today in the Situation Room in which I've got people who we know have been on ISIL websites, living here in the United States, U.S. citizens, and we're allowed to put them on the no-fly list when it comes to airlines. But because of the National Rifle Association, I cannot prohibit those people from buying a gun. This is somebody who is a known ISIL sympathizer, and if he wants to walk in to a gun store or a gun show right now and buy as many weapons as ammo as he can, nothing's prohibiting him from doing that, even though the FBI knows who that person is. So, sir, I just have to say respectfully that there is a way for us to have common sense gun laws. There is a way
at McFarland and Hawk the Vote Wisconsin voters found out they were first when they showed up to vote Tuesday.
Responsible gun owners like yourself are able to use
at
it
Baby
for
Postal.
Sporting,
well,
hunting,
this is awkward.
Protecting yourself.
At Yashar 1. Pretty incredible that they got this CNN town hall together just a week after the shooting in Parkland. At the Kitchenista. Gonna go work on a recipe inspired by Mbaku.
You ran back to your gun-free spaces in Washington, D.C. and hid under your desks until CNN stopped talking about it. After 49 people, including my 2 brothers, were murdered at Pulse, what did you do? Not a damn thing. You plugged your ears and turned your eyes and hoped that we would stop talking. And now we're here again. 17 people are dead. 14 of them are children. And what did you do yesterday when given the chance to do something about it? Not a damn thing. Instead, you avoided eye contact once more with these incredible students, and you voted not to keep them safe. And they were right here! You sent thoughts and prayers as your remedy, but refused to take action. Well, members of the legislature, I am proud to announce I took your advice. I have been praying. I have been praying for you. I pray that you look in the mirror and figure out your priorities. I pray that you sign the No NRA Money Pledge.
Devin Nunes, the Republican chair of the House Intelligence Committee, made a joke of asking the Russian bots for help to make an article such at Trump45. What the government fears most is the day we stand together as Americans. MAGA listening session students stand up. At NCO Olympics, at Team Slider 2, at Team Slider 24 medals for her third straight Winter Olympics with a silver in women's bobsled. At Clinton 614, all I have to say is I didn't do nothing to knob the 1,900 followers gone. Did I miss the rapture? At Cam, Lord, you have to see this. What planet is Nancy Pelosi on her brilliant border security idea is mowing the grass, so that way illegals can't hide behind the tall grass. Seriously, someone needs to get Pelosi back on her meds. During an interview today, Pelosi stated that President Trump's border wall is never going to happen. But fear not, because Pelosi has a
Major gun owners do make up a key part of the president's base. Is there concern that he could alienate them with these changes potentially?
Potentially. And we don't know exactly how far down the road the president is going to go. He's only talked about things in very broad terms. And it's worth noting that though during this listening session, the president said he was open to all ideas, there was only one idea in particular that he gave voice to at any length, and that was having teachers carry concealed weapons, which is something the National Rifle Association in general favors. So the president said he was open to lots of ideas, but when he had the opportunity and therefore took it to express his own ideas about what might work and might be the best remedy, the one he chose to emphasize was one very much aligned with the National Rifle Association's approach to this issue, which is gun-free zones, make schools soft targets. The way to harden those targets is to allow teachers to be trained and to carry concealed weapons. So, taking the president's very words, it's hard to see that he is really prepared to step very far away from the National Rifle Association's general approach to these underlying issues. The president said he's open. The White House has said that they are open to lots of different ideas, but until we actually see them put in force, or the president, by his own words, endorse legislation.
What foreign powers want from the Syrian War News DW2012-2018?
It's sounding very tactical, like in this very hot and very emotional
News and
political
current
moment.
affairs from Germany
The
and
White
around
House
the world.
doesn't want to appear to ignore the pleas of students or families or victims, but it's going to have to be much more specific and much more detailed about what it's willing to do before we'll have any idea what the potential political blowback will be, number one, and number two, how willing or able this White House will be to withstand it if it comes.
And just to follow up on that, Major, to be clear, was there a timeline or a promise of action made by the President or any White House officials at any point during this rather remarkable, emotional conversation that took place at the White House?
No, there wasn't. The president said he would listen and then we're going to do something. As the president often says about Washington before his arrival, lots of people were talking before, but now we're going to act. We're going to do things. So he has created at least that expectation, but he's put no timeline on it. And to be quite honest, soundings I've taken on Capitol Hill still show widespread Republican resistance to something like reinstating the assault weapons ban. There may be something that would be that the Congress under Republican leadership might be willing to consider in terms of legislating a ban on the so-called bump stocks, which the president said yesterday he would like the Justice Department to create a rule to ban in the future. Congress may go that far, but in terms of reinstating either previous gun control on assault weapons or doing something new and more expansive in that regard, no signal like that whatsoever from the White House. No timetable from the White House. But to your other point, Elaine, it is worth giving this White House credit. There were voices in there
new detection
that were clearly sympathetic to President Trump, but there are also voices not necessarily sympathetic to him, but very anguished and forceful on the gun control side of the equation, and the president let them have their voice, number one, let them speak at length, number two, and three, let the country witness that in a way that most previous presidents I've covered would not necessarily be comfortable doing. Was that just a way to release the pressure and gain credit for that on a tactical political basis? Maybe yes, maybe no. Not making a judgment like that whatsoever. But it is worth noting that these scenes at the Trump White House are different, and they're more inclusive of different points of view, and that was certainly evident today.
Yes, and allowing cameras to remain in there is certainly something we haven't usually been accustomed to with other administrations. Major Garrett at the White House. Major, thank you so much.
Sure.
Suspects arrested in theft, slaughter of pregnant Burlington Good News DW 19.2018.
You've heard a lot about our failing institutions on this program. We now know the FBI is riddled with incompetent partisan hacks. The intelligence community seems to exist mostly to spy on you and leak information about politicians it dislikes. Your state and local governments are full of bureaucrats who are paid more to deliver less every year and then retire with a fat pension in their 50s. Academia, meanwhile, is apparently
raising interest rates is like starting an efficient chain reaction, zero hedge.
Activism than in teaching. There is a lot of rot in our halls of power, but our federal courts may be the most decayed institution of all, though they receive very little attention. Under the last two administrations,
why Syria and the U.S. clashed for control East Euphrates Syria deeply.
Of the law, their constitutional role, but as the country's main policymakers. Consider, for example, what's been happening with DACA. Now, as a factual matter, it is indisputable that any president has the authority to end DACA. The program
German police seek 14-year-old girl in foster guardian News DW 21.2018.
actual federal law says that illegal immigrants are to be deported from this country, not given legal residency or work permits. The Obama administration simply chose to ignore that law, citing the right of prosecutorial discretion. Now, that argument could be valid theoretically, though we are skeptical, but here's what we know. If Obama can choose to ignore the law, it is obvious the Trump administration has the right to enforce
Olympics
the law.
skier Elizabeth Swanee, I did not scam my way into the games.
Left-wing judges disagree. Several have ruled already it is somehow illegal to end DACA. Their justification for this is legally ludicrous. Last month, San Francisco District Court Judge William Alsup blocked the end of DACA nationwide. He said getting rid of it was, quote, arbitrary and capricious. As part of his ruling, Alsup simply asserted that DACA should continue because it was, quote, in the public interest. In other words, the judge likes the program, therefore ending it is illegal. Last week, another judge, Judge Nicholas Garifas in New York, ruled that DACA can't be eliminated because the administration has not provided a valid reason for eliminating it, as if following the law were not enough. And it's not the first bizarre ruling from that judge. In 2010, Garifas ordered the New York Fire Department to use racial quotas for hiring rather than merit in order to achieve some goals he had in mind, and the results were immediate. Injuries in the fire department went up. The dropout rate of firemen in that class surged from 10% to 24%. In a later reversal, an appeals court said that Garifas's bias was so obvious and so severe that parts of the case had to be assigned to a new judge. And yet, of course, Garifas is still on the bench. He and a lot of judges like him. In Michigan, a judge has blocked the deportation of convicted Iraqi criminals from this country, citing the alleged danger they would face if they returned to their own country. In New York, a judge released an illegal immigrant criminal prior to deportation, claiming he had a constitutional right to, quote, say goodbye. In Florida, a judge blocked the deportation of nearly 100 Somalis because of the conditions on
Telegram
the
is holding a secret news recycle analyze Alex Jones info hours there as a warrant for your mind.
Now. In the name of progressive resistance to the president, anything can be declared unconstitutional, and is. For example, it's been settled law pretty much forever that a president has the power to exclude foreigners from the country based on security concerns. But in the past year, multiple judges have ignored this and struck down the
impact of Chechen and North Caucasian militants in Syria deeply.
Position that the bans were unconstitutional because of things Trump said on the campaign trail.
German doctor inside to remove name from rating website news DW22.2018.
FDR's internment of the Japanese American citizens of Japanese descent.
Social media challenge puts for German men in hospital news DW19.2018.
Get that man a CNN contract. For more than 200 years, the U.S. military determined who could serve in uniform based in part on which medical conditions might negatively affect a person's ability to fight wars. And
a major misconception about the market exposed in one chart.
It's no longer the law, thanks to judges. In his final months in office, President Obama declared the military must
map behind Pennsylvania's gerrymandered map getting overturned by
regardless of the effect on military readiness. That was a political decision, obviously, but thanks to activist judges, it is now a constitutional right somehow.
Sweden continues to obliterate itself. Alex Jones info hours there as a warrant for your mind.
The District of Columbia have ruled that it's unconstitutional to bar
how Russia benefits from Turkey as after an Operation Syria deeply.
Garbus's ruling went on to order the government to cover gender reassignment surgery at taxpayer expense. These judges are not interpreting the law, much less enforcing it. They are inventing the law. They reject the core idea of democracy, which is a country
inside the Mueller indictment, the Russian novel of required.
Its voters. The judges are in control, no matter what you want or who you voted for. Increasingly, the elected branches of government are irrelevant. And this is especially true on the issue of immigration, as we said. In the 1980s, a limited amnesty for farm workers was supposed to end in 1988. The courts ruled it had to be extended further. And as a result, thousands of additional people were given amnesty they weren't supposed to receive. Lawmakers were ignored. In the
Barack and
1990s,
Michelle Obama portraits unveiled in Washington News DW 2.2018.
that denied state social services to people here illegally. Courts gutted that law
Milo
without
and
even
percent
allowing it
PJW
to
the
take
culture war
effect.
Lex Jones info
And
hours
now
there is a war on
California's
for your
entire
mind.
class is fleeing the state because illegal immigration has made it a dystopia suitable only for the very poor and the very rich. That's exactly what voters didn't want, but the vote didn't care. So how long
Politics
before some
Yahoo
judge
News
on the
latest
Ninth
news
Circuit, for
ampersand
example,
headlines.
decides illegal aliens have the right to vote in our elections because, well, just because.
World news breaking international news and headlines Sky
You know that's
News.
coming, because it is. In a functioning
German prisons
constitutional
150
republic,
dangerous
judges are
Islamists need
essential. Their
de-radicalizing.
job is
State
to
Police
restrain
News DW
politicians
21
from trampling our
2.2018.
core governing principles. And by core governing principles, we mean the ones written in the Constitution, not on the New York Times editorial page or at the base of the Statue of Liberty. Our system has worked well for hundreds of years, but it's breaking apart. And it's breaking apart because of judicial integrity. There isn't enough of
The
that.
Venezuelan socialist
If you
collapse
find
explained
yourself
Lex Jones
arguing
info
the
hours there is a
Constitution
war on
does
for
not
your mind.
contain the right to keep and bear arms, but does
NTSB
contain a
took
right
hit
to
by
abortion,
train was on
you're
tracks
lying.
after warning.
That's not a difference of interpretation, it's dishonesty. One is in the text, one is not. Right now, this is happening almost exclusively on the left, but it's not hard to imagine conservatives doing it too. Why wouldn't they after a while? What happens when Republican-appointed judges start striking down laws
Political
that
News
Democratic
International
Congress
and
passed
Politics
on
Sky
taxes
News.
or health care, the environment, abortion, you name it, simply because they don't like them? The judiciary will lose whatever honor it once had.
Weather
It will
forecast
become a
world ampersand
political
local
weapon.
weather report online
That's
Sky
happened
News.
in a lot of countries, and it's a disaster every time. Judges who misuse their power ought to be called to account. They're not gods. They're government officials who work for us. And when they're corrupt or dishonest, they ought to face the same criticism as politicians or bureaucrats. Abraham Lincoln understood this. He accused the High Court's Chief Justice of plotting to spread slavery throughout America. Lincoln is praised by historians for doing that because he was right. But when this administration points out judicial malfeasance, and there's a lot of it, the ruling class responds with howls. That's an attack on democracy, they say.
I find these attacks on the judiciary absolutely abhorrent and unacceptable.
I'll be honest, I don't understand language like that. We don't have so-called judges. We don't have so-called senators. We don't have so-called presidents.
So-called judge. Is it appropriate for the president to be questioning the legitimacy of a federal judge in that way? Doesn't that undermine the separation of powers in the Constitution written right next door?
They're lying to you, as they always are. It's not anti-democratic to demand that the public's views should fundamentally shape public policy. That's the essence of democracy itself. Jonathan Turley is a particularly distinguished professor at George Washington University Law School, and he joins us tonight. Professor, thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
So that's kind of the essence of the whole debate, is to what extent should public policy be guided by the public's views in a democracy? And obviously there are mediating structures, the Congress, the judiciary, the executive, but basically if you get too far from what the public wants, it's not democracy, is it?
Well, we of course live in a representative democracy.
Right.
You elect people to make decisions for you, but you hopefully won't have too much of a disconnect at the end of the day between the policies being pursued. Ultimately, those laws have to be written by people who are political representatives.
Exactly.
And that means that the courts must
Performing digital audit. Insanity, it's utter insanity out there. Parents and students plead with Trump. How many children have to get shot by New York Times? Whoa. Now that's spicy. Andrew Pollock, who lost his daughter in the Florida shooting, was a guest at a listening session at the White House. Washington, an anguished father mourning his 18-year-old daughter, vented his anger and pleaded for safer schools. A fear-stricken student who watched classmates die last week wept openly as he called for banning assault weapons. A mother who lost her 6-year-old son in a school shooting just over 5 years ago warned that more parents would lose their children if President Trump did not act, adding, "Don't you let that happen on your watch." One by one at the White House on Wednesday afternoon, survivors of school shootings and family members of victims shared their stories and their calls to action. The extraordinary public exchange with the president gave voice to an intensely emotional debate over how to respond to the latest gun massacre in an American school. At Loud Obs. Thanks to all for your kindness and concern, and your loyalty as always to the show. I've had a medical issue to deal with and have been recuperating on the farm. All has gone well, and I am anxious to get back to the show this coming Monday. Thanks again, and see you then. At Real Savira. MSNBC anchor thanks Democratic lawmaker for trying to push gun control legislation. Students stand up.
Decided that the debate wasn't appropriate at that particular time. Unfortunately, it happened at a time where the voices of the people were in the gallery participating in democracy. And as you understand and you well know,
He requested the Justice Department to come up with regulations around these. Well, the Justice Department has already considered regulating those kinds of devices. Dianne Feinstein, the author of the Clinton-era assault rifle ban, which was allowed to expire during the George W. Bush years, today she released this letter from 5 years ago, reminding everyone that Democrats have been asking for years for DOJ to promulgate regulations to stop these add-ons and accessories that make semi-automatic rifles fire like they're automatic. The Justice Department is already on record explicitly saying that they are not allowed legally to promulgate those kinds of regulations. It is
At Mom 101. A brave Sandy Hook father. My wife is a career educator and she will tell you, school teachers have more than enough responsibilities right now without the responsibility of lethal force to take a life. Applause in the room. Parkland students speak. At Ziggurat Digital. Blockchain is making the entire ecosystem take a step forward in business with a master in blockchain.
And the U.S. leads by 2.3.
The Canadians are still in the 29s. This race is not over. The Canadians are going to have a big fast lap, but this is a strong finish for the U.S. team.
The U.S. looking for its first speed skating medal of these Pyeongchang Games as they speed through the final turn. Manganello got a push, got a shove from behind. Here they come for the finish. It's going to be close. Cross the line. U.S. wins.
At Mikhail Betty 3. Lil Marco is disrespected yet still tapped in, says sad town hall mug.
But the point is, you're here, and there are some people who are not. And I need to ask two things of you. Number one, Chris Grady, can you stand up? This is my friend who's going into the military. I need you to tell him that he's going to live to make it to serve our country. And then we'll get to the other one.
Not only are you going to live to serve our country, you and all of you have a chance to change our country. Change not just our laws, but the way we talk about our laws. So absolutely.
Thank you. And
at Fox News, at Bayern New York, at Barack Obama, at Bayern New York. The thing that emerged on the dossier is how high did knowledge of the dossier go in the at Barack Obama administration, Hannity.
And the fact, who knew what, when, and where about the dossier? Who did they share it with? Most important questions.
The theme that emerged on the dossier is how high did knowledge of the dossier go in the Obama administration? When we first heard about it, it was a couple of people in the FBI knew about it. And then we found out that more people in the FBI knew about it. And then we found out that people in the Justice Department, the larger Justice Department, knew about it, going up pretty high. And then we found out that a lot of people in the State Department knew about it. So I think the Nunes letter, and we'll have to see.
Was that because of that final last-minute executive order 12333 that you can now share the intelligence with 16, 17 other agencies?
I think it was more an interlocking web of personal connections. People knew Christopher Steele from doing this. The State Department knew him from Ukraine stuff, and the FBI knew him from the World Soccer investigation stuff. I think it was more personal connections than anything. So we need to see who all this Nunes letter is going to, and then you'll get a better idea of where he thinks that knowledge went.
At Eternal.com, Eco Ethereum blockchain freelancing at Eternal OpenAI decentralized. A new international startup just announced their decentralized P2P freelancer platform, which will be funded by a new Eco 2.0 that gives the P. Special counsel Robert Mueller and federal prosecutors in New York are examining as much as $16 million in loans at a bank run by a former cam. At Emanator. Luke, I am fine with protests and letting the kids from Parkland have their say. But I am pretty tired of the media patting themselves on the back for presenting a one-sided tragicomedy of errors and pretending it is moving the ball on the gun debate. It is sowing distrust. Again. At JamesHudson20. At they late listen to what the kids have to say. No, not these kids. The other ones. At Greenwald Bayon. One last thing that is vile about what CNN did. This reporter would never show up uninvited at the home of, say, Obama military or intel officials and ambush them with cameras. They respectfully invite them into studios and allow them to decline. So easy to confront the powerless. At Radio Freedom, at DSHYWITZ Evrian, at Reelden Ultram, at Asymmetrisenf, at Bill Christo, at Podherd. I disagree, David. I used to write speeches and prepare briefing books for a politician. I never had to hand him a note telling him to feign empathy, because he was, a normal human being who didn't need instructions about talking to other normal human beings. At Africa Practice, at Roddy Barclay. Africa's economies face an important test this year. Head of Intelligence and Analysis, at Roddy Barclay, explores some of the prominent trends being witnessed in African politics and the economy in the African year 2018. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Google. Parents of 23-year-old alleged right-wing terrorist Jerry Drake Varnell claim that the Federal Bureau of Investigation FBI turned their ass. At Isa 4031 this statement by her father just is heartbreaking. There are no words for this. My only hope is my faith ampersand if she accepted Christ as well as you will see her again. Sir, God bless you ampersand all the families in this senseless tragedy. Prayers for Florida. At Andromeda, at Mark Ruby. Usually when you have to say people buy into my agenda several times, that is a sign that you trust people buy into your agenda. At Mark Rubio, it might be time for a career change. You're just not very good at this. At Sean Spicier. Now you're blaming Rubio, man. You guys are getting colder. At Rawang. I can't believe children who just survived a school shooting are having to defend themselves against conspiracy theorists accusing them of faking all of this. At Embassy of Russia, at Twitter labels thousands of accounts as bots, locks them out. Most of them turn out to be actual people that, weirdly enough, adhere to non-mainstream opinions. Coincidence in before this purge is explained as yet another hunt for imaginary Russian bots to wear lookout. At Quilles Reach. The Power of Nine is a short film that examines the role of mobile technology in solving the world's biggest challenges. Watch here.
Computers are a distant dream, but a mobile phone is an immediate reality.
At Brian55D. Teachers want to go to schools armed with books, not guns. Parkland students speak. At Raz0first, 2 legends. And also Danny Trejo. At the Trump train. Huge got in touch with some ex-Obama staffers today. They are almost certain an investigation is coming that will destroy the Democratic Party and expose vast amount corruption in various administration. At Real Savira. Joe Biden was behind the legislation that is preventing teachers from carrying in schools. Nearly all school mass shootings have happened after this bill was signed into law. Students stand up. After a monster killed 17 people in a Florida high school on Valentine's Day, though, calls for arming teachers have increased. At Microsoft, we have more power at our fingertips than entire generations that came before us. We celebrate those who use it to change lives, inspiring us all to see the possibilities. At Jane's for Congress, Noon's fundraiser location is at Vino on Champlain & Bayron in North Fresno. Head there if you think it is time for change in California 22. One is a threat to public health and should be investigated, the other is in R15. At President Trump. Must watch Andrew Pollock, father of slain teen Meadow Pollock, speaks his heart. Says he is pissed, he is angry, he doesn't want to even deal with a gun issue right now. He just wants to secure our schools now.
This shouldn't happen. We go to the airport, I can't get on a plane with a bottled water, but we leave it. Some animal could walk into a school and shoot our children. It's just not right, and we need to come together as a country and work on what's important, and that's protecting our children in the schools. That's the only thing that matters right now. Everyone has to come together and not think about different laws. We need to come together as a country, not different parties, and figure out how we protect the schools. It's simple. It's not difficult. We protect airports. We protect concerts, stadiums, embassies, the Department of Education that I walked in today that has a security guard in the elevator. How do you think that makes me feel? In the elevator, they got a security guard. I'm very angry that this happened because it keeps happening. 9/11 happened once and they fixed everything. How many schools, how many children have to get shot? It stops here with this administration and me. I'm not going to sleep
U.S.
until it's fixed.
Ted Deutsch criticizes NER for millions of political donations. If you add it all up, NER has spent $203.2 million on political activities since 1998. At Seth Abramson, at The Hill Go, further proof America's best and brightest aren't going into politics. What sort of abject moron must you be to make this comment publicly, or even privately? And frankly I'd say the same if the comment were about Republicans. This sort of thinking is lazy, stupid, cruel. At Uncle Jimbo Sheepdog. Guns for defense are the only alternative to guns being used to attack, otherwise you are simply hoping it is not you who gets shot. That is insanity. We can talk about and work on other solutions, but this should be done immediately.
To see Rihanna and Chris when they first started dating, it was magical, you know? And those two, they were kind of inseparable, you know? You would hear about them being in the studio, you would hear, you know, they're coming into the club together, and it was just an energy.
At that time in our career, being that young, being naive, gullible, but also just happy, just wanting to be everywhere. I mean, it was no other feeling like it. But with her, with Ree, it was just like our power that we had at that age. It was just, it's dangerous, man. Like you could go anywhere. Like we couldn't go to a hotel and not have 1,000 fans outside waiting. You know what I'm saying? We couldn't go to any restaurant and just eat. Like real life rock stars at 16 and 17 years old. Man, that's dangerous. Because you could do whatever you want. I just think we were like the perfect, like, and bad combination. Like it was just good and bad together. It was just,
This happened to me, and it can happen to anybody. There are a lot of women who've experienced what I did. But not in the public. So it made it really difficult. I just felt like, oh my God, here goes my little bit of privacy. Just people exposed. Like, it's something that nobody wants anybody to know. So here I am, the whole world knowing.
Like real life rock stars at 16 and 17 years old. Man, that's dangerous. Because you could do whatever you want. I just think we were like the
Us neo-Nazi groups on the rise under President Donald Trump. Report News DW 22.2018.
Together, it just, I want to say maybe a year and a half into the relationship with Rihanna, I really was serious about it. Like, you know, I was always goofy about everything else, being a young kid, but the maturity level I had in my beliefs of what I wanted with my girlfriend, you know what, I want to marry you, but I want, before, you know, we go any further, I just want to be able to be honest and be completely real with you about everything you've ever had a question about or a doubt about.
Totally East tragicomic photos of everyday life in former East Germany. RSDW 16.2018.
She worked for me at the time, and I said, nah, man, you know what it is. Just, you know, I brushed it to the side. One, I didn't want her knowing my business.
German doctor wins right to remove name from rating website. News DW 22.2018.
Around like the 8th month, or maybe like a little bit after that VMA performance, I just broke it to her. I said, hey, I want to marry you, but I want to be real with you. I want to be honest with you and tell you, you know, everything. This is what it is. Before we were together, me and this other girl did have sex. My trust totally was lost with her. You know what I'm saying? She hated me. Like, after that, I tried everything. Like, she didn't care. Like, she just didn't trust me after that. From there, it just went downhill because, you know, it would be fights, it would be verbal fights, physical fights as well, mutual sides, and this is the first time I get to say anything. And like I said, you know, I still love Rihanna, but I'm just going to be
share economy nearly 4 in 10 Germans use online services. News DW 21.2018.
It never was okay. It was always a point to when we talk about it, like, yo, what the fuck are we doing? Like, I don't like that. I don't like you slapping me. If I go on stage, I got a scratch on my face, and I got to explain it like, oh, no, I fell. Like,
political thriller master custody of highlight of Harlem conspiracy theory inspired.
You got to put makeup on it. I feel like shit. Like, I'm not ever trying to put my hands on any female. Like me, I felt like a fucking monster. 7 years ago, when I was about 17, 18, you know, the whole Rihanna incident happened. And, you know, a lot of that changed my life. And that night at that Clive Davis party, that I made sure the person that I was involved with before, I said, hey, you can't
Work
come
from
around
home
to
tips
these
video
places.
conferencing. Standing
And the
desk
person
wired.
comes right to the table and say, hey, what's up, y'all?
Australian banknotes, one of the most advanced in the world.
So I say, hey, cool, and I keep it, and they keep it moving. They leave. I look over at Rihanna, and she's bawling. She's just crying in the middle of the ceremony about to start. She's just crying, and I'm like, yo, please, babe, don't do this. Like, don't do this in here. Like I didn't know. I promise. I swear to God, I didn't know. So she got over it. She started drinking a little bit. We both was drinking a little bit. We was tipsy, laughing, joking, and then we left.
And Juan, just a few
How
hours
Facebook
ago,
uses
we
I for
saw
suicide
Chris Brown
prevention.
drive off. According to sources, the alleged fight broke out inside a Lamborghini that was
Trump meets Florida school shooting survivors on gun safety.
Young relationships, any relationship is based on trust, but because I told her that she didn't trust me with anything, so I would give her the option of, oh, you can look at my phone. So I gave her the phone. She looks at the phone and there's a message and it says, kill the Grammys, do your thing. And I didn't read the rest of the message, I didn't open it. So she opened the message and the rest of the message said, I'll see you at the cloud party. So off that.
Searching it. The internet is really big, really big, guys. Germany's far-right shaft overtakes Social Democrats in poll bar news bar DW bar 19.2018. Whoa. Mama. The populist alternative for Germany AfD has overtaken the Social Democrats SPD in a national opinion poll for the first time. The news comes as the SPD begins a crucial vote on a coalition with Angela Merkel. A poll published on behalf of German tabloid Bild has found that 16% of voters would choose the right-wing, anti-immigrant alternative for Germany AfD, half 8% more than those who would vote for the Social Democrats SPD. The figures released by the INSA Polling Institute show thus in free fall. Germany's oldest political party has seen its polling figures plummet even further since it garnered just 20.5% of the votes in September's federal election, its worst result in the post-war era. DW political correspondent Thomas Sparrow described the poll as a bombshell, and part of a larger trend that sees traditional parties losing ground to the anti-immigrant AfD. Let's not forget that the AfD entered the German parliament for the first time in September. They became Germany's third most important force political in the parliament, and they tap essentially into people's fears, Sparrow told DW television. We are talking here about immigration, about their suspicions regarding the establishment, the established political parties. That's one of the reasons why they have been able to take some of those voters away from both the Conservatives and the Social Democrats. Telegram is holding a secretive second pre-eco sale. People are wild. You have to admire Pavel Durov's audacity. Over the past few months, the CEO of Telegram convinced 81 accredited investors, including Silicon Valley giants Sequoia Capital and Benchmark, to give him $850 million in a pre-sale of his company's cryptocurrency in advance of an initial coin offering, or ICO. Now, he's trying to raise even more money from accredited investors before the coin gets offered to the public in a secretive second pre-sale. This week, investors got an email explaining that Telegram is doing another private pre-sale, for sources with knowledge of the deal told The Verge. The exact amount to be raised is still being determined, according to one source, but two other sources say Telegram is estimating it will be around the same size as the first round, which would bring the total raised to around $1.6 billion before the ICO even opens up to the general public. Telegram's offering was already the largest ICO ever, dwarfing the previous record of $232 million. Telegram declined to comment on the second pre-sale. Sequoia Capital declined to comment and Benchmark did not respond to questions. More from The Verge. Check this out, it's high energy. Washington has recently outlined policy for Syria is unlikely to be able to change the battlefield, protect its allies, or alter the policies of regional states, says Syria researcher and Professor Samarab. Automation. Automation provides the agility needed to orchestrate a complex, diverse landscape of applications and technologies. Padelan. There is no page to turn. There is no presidential moment for Trump to rise to. You can't teach empathy. You can't teach decency. You either have it, or you don't. Having to write I hear you as an emotion to share is sad. It is also a lie. Listening session. Nikik knows nada. HMMM. 2016 gunmaker Smith & Wesson report rifle sales dropped by more than 50%. Second quarter down $17 million. 2017 Trump signs bill making it easier for PPLW mental illness to buy guns. Parkland students speak resist. Official mic. YouTube removes video which claims Florida shooting survivor, 17, is a paid crisis actor after it becomes the #1 trending clip on the site. The video regurgitates a California news broadcast from summer 2017 which shows Hug describing how a friend of his got into an argument with. At Democrats. Sheriff Scott Israel holds NER spokeswoman Dana Loesch accountable after she falsely claims to be standing up for Stoneman plus students.
In the U.S. are created or edited on Word.
Given how painful editing resumes can be, we know that some users will just avoid it entirely.
One of my favorite quotes from a user who had said that she would rather stay in her own job just to avoid editing her resume. Those are pain points that we wanted to solve in a world-class way.
With Resume Assistant in Word, users can get example work experiences and suggested skills powered by LinkedIn Insight. By leveraging public profiles on LinkedIn, users have an idea of what things they may want to consider for their resume, can use that as inspiration and feel more confident about how they are going about editing their resume. One of my favorite things about this product is the skill suggestions.
For some folks, they're looking for some inspiration about the job that they want. A lot of non-LinkedIn members didn't even know LinkedIn was a place to look for jobs. We have a module which is called Open Candidates, which is a very seamless feature where a LinkedIn member can go ahead and toggle on, which essentially kind of raises their hand and says, recruiters, I am open to opportunities.
We believe that users are now going to be able to take advantage of this to take the next step in their career, grow their network, see what tools LinkedIn has to offer to them. This feature allows users to make the best resume they can in Word, get that perfect document, but also then go on to continue that job-seeking journey in LinkedIn.
For LinkedIn, we're really solving problems for job seekers to really help.
At Jupki, how can you talk about gun control when you've never fired a gun? How you're anti-gay and you've never sucked cock?
The only guy doing both switch doubles down into the bottom. Does he have the double cork? 1260, yes!
At Big League Bill. CNN shouldn't have done this. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Google as Big League Politics reported on Tuesday, CNN had showed up to the house of an elderly Trump supporter and harassed her for promoting and attending a pro-Trump
I want to like you. Here's the problem, and I'm a brutally honest person, so I'm just going to say it up front. I want to like you. Here's the problem, and I'm a brutally honest person, so I'm just going to say it up front.
Yes, sir.
When I like you, you know it, and when I'm pissed at you, you know it. Your comments this week and those of our president have been pathetically weak. You and I are now eye to eye, because I want to like you. Look at me and tell me guns were the factor in the hunting of our kids in this school this week. And look at me and tell me you accept it and you will work with us to do something about guns.
Fred, I'm not, first of all, let me explain what I said this week, and I'll repeat it. I'll repeat what I said. And what I said, and then I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to talk about guns, and we're going to talk about what I said this week. And here's what I said. I said that the problems that we are facing...
Let him speak. I think we need to hear it.
I'm saying that the problems that we're facing here today cannot be solved by gun laws alone.
Guns the factor in the hunting of our kids.
They were. And here's
it's the weapon of choice. Can you say that?
I support moving forward on that initiative and making it widely available for everyone around the country. Now, I think what you're asking about is the assault weapons ban.
Yes, sir.
So let me be honest with you about that one. If I believed that that law would have prevented this from happening, I would support it. But I want to explain to you why it would not.
Senator Rubio, my daughter, running down the hallway, and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was shot in the back with an assault weapon, the weapon of choice.
Yes, sir.
Okay? It is too easy to get. It is a weapon of war. The fact that you can't stand with everybody in this building and say that, I'm sorry.
Sir, I do believe...
Friends presents new duration bills 100 teenagers this minus 0 radicalizing. State Police News DW 21 2.2018.
My belief remains that rather than continue to try to chase every loophole that's created, it's why it failed in '94, it's why they're getting around it now in California, it's why how they get around it in New York, is we instead should make sure that dangerous criminals, people that are deranged, cannot buy any gun of any kind. That's what I believe a better answer will be. Okay.
Your answer speaks for itself.
Thank you, Mr. Guttenberg.
All right, joining us here at CPAC with reaction, former Deputy Assistant
UNICEF 4 and 5 newborn deaths, preventable news DW 22.2018.
Sebastian Gorka and former Secret Service agent, NRA TV contributor Dan Bongino. Good to see you.
What's up, brother?
How are you?
Good.
French government unveils tougher asylum rules in new bill. Friends 24.
They all like free footballs.
Me too.
Let me start with the year that has been. You were in the White House in the beginning of this. Here you have
Uber launches express pool to conquer the commute wired.
You know, all in 2016, Dr. Gorka, I said to my audience, I said every day, and I did it on purpose not to hear myself talk. I said, oh, we have, what, 13 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty after 8
is
years
looking
of
at
Obama.
potential new sanctions against Russia.
Recovery since the 40s, lowest labor participation rate since the 70s. We doubled the
YouTube and
national
Facebook
debt,
trending tools highlighted
and
Parkland
the lowest
conspiracy
homeownership
theories
rate in
wired.
51 years. In 1 year, this dramatic change has
South
occurred.
Korea has spent $220,000 on Kim Jong-un's sister at Olympics.
Why? Because the majority of the media is
Too many stocks from one sector of an index is a danger sign.
And let's just be very clear. If we didn't have President Trump's Twitter feed and Sean Hannity, Hillary Clinton would be president. Okay?
So all of us.
All right?
I'm a convert, by the way. There were times I said, oh, please don't tweet that. No.
He
and
won.
It comes out.
He won. He's up to 47 million followers.
I think when you add all his social media, it's like
on
over
Twitter,
100.
just on Twitter.
Just on Twitter.
Why? Because he's jumping over the fake news industrial complex and saying, look, this is the truth. Do you want to defeat ISIS? Right? Do you want people to have jobs? Do you want to close the border? What is the Democrat Party going to run on in November? We don't want jobs, we don't want growth, and ISIS should come back? Is that what they're going to run on?
They're going to run on I hate Donald Trump.
Right, bingo, right? But
Australian banknotes, one of the most advanced in the world.
For them. Because where's the collusion, Sean? The collusion is in the DNC. It's Hillary, her lawyers, a foreign MI6 spy, not registered as a foreign agent.
Oh, wait a minute. FARC matters?
When there's a Republican president, I guess it does, right? But if it's a Democrat candidate, I guess not. And think of one more thing. $13 million. I mean, that's a pretty good, that's the kind of job I'd like. $13 million for one file, that's made up. It's propaganda that came from where?
Russia.
Russia, okay? So they colluded to undermine our election. I'll just close on this and I'll let Dan talk. If you didn't believe in God, well, you have to change your mind on November the 7th, right? I mean, it just... And we had divine intervention because she had the media, she had the deep state.
In Syria's tangled conflict, a kind of regional war has already Syria deeply.
Who won? The outsider won. So God bless Donald Trump.
All said. Dan, it's been, and I remember I was here in 2015.
Yeah.
And when all of this got started up, on this stage I interviewed Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, and all these candidates. Here we are.
Hackers hijacked Tesla's cloud to mine cryptocurrency wired.
In a year. I want to ask the same question. No credit given.
Yeah.
And what's even worse is we've been lied to for over a year. There's no evidence of
a major
this,
misconception about the market exposed in one chart.
Paying for a Russian dossier. The Uranium One deal is unconscionable.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk tonight with the lawyer for the informant that was on the inside. Where are we in terms of an information crisis?
Well, it's bad, Sean. You know, I always think, like, what's the Democrat slogan? What's the headline? I call it the Wheaties box message for the midterms, and it's going to be Dems 2018, crumbs and collusion. Vote for us. Vote for crumbs, because that's all they have. But the irony of this whole thing is the Democrats produced crumbs under the Obama era. Sean, numbers don't lie. Sooner or later, they're going to have to come to accept the fact that their secular stagnation theory, in other words, it wasn't Obama's fault, the economy just stunk for all kinds of secular reasons, is done. It's 1 year in office, and we've had 3 quarters now of 3% growth. Obama never hit it at all. The numbers don't lie. The Obamaites and the Obama files
You don't need a personal genetics test to take charge of your health wired.
Collusion's real. Don't anybody in this room think Russian collusion didn't happen. It just didn't happen with the Trump team. There's absolutely no question right now that Hillary Clinton dealt with a foreign agent in Christopher Steele. He's British. He's not from the United States, who in turn dealt with Russian sources. And I'm telling you, you know the tick-tock on this one. There is a lot more to come about Steele's interactions with the Russians that you don't know about, that will deeply disturb even a lot of the most skeptical people in the room.
This is the thing that I'm trying to understand here. To me, this is the biggest story that the media has missed in their lifetime. If you have a presidential candidate, and we're supposed to care that the Russians are trying to influence the election, and then one candidate pays for Russian lies, and then it's used to get a FISA warrant, but they don't tell the FISA judge that Hillary Clinton bought and paid
Yahoo
for
Finance, Business Finance, Stock Market,
well, it might have some political tainting. It wasn't political tainting. So that happens in October. In January, Comey is telling the president-elect it's salacious and unverified, but they're telling a FISA court in October that it's good enough to get a warrant to spy on a member associate of the campaign.
Right. Look, the
New York prosecutor sues Harvey Weinstein's studio ahead of reported failed News DW 12.2018.
An internal political police force. America doesn't have
Olympic
an
skier Elizabeth Miley did not speak anyway to the Games or Lex Jones info hours. There is a warrant for your mind.
Proof, if you have probable cause that somebody is doing something, you have to go to a special secret court and say, look, this is pretty incontrovertible that something suspicious is going on here, and we will allow you temporarily to spy on an American. Well, what happened? We now know that happened illegally. How did that happen? The highest people in the FBI and the DOJ signed off on that warrant application. We have had 9 people in just the last 2 months be retired, moved to other positions, or fired at DOJ.
It's even higher than 9. I think we're up to 12.
All right, that's even worse.
But how does Peter Strzok and Lisa Page still have a job? How is Bruce Orr still allowed in the building? These are people, I'm sure this audience is aware of what they've done.
I refused to use the phrase deep state until about 3 months ago.
Did you really? Why?
Because I felt it was a little bit tinfoil hatty. Right? It was a little bit too conspiracy.
So you thought I was a little tinfoil hatty? Is that what you're saying?
No. When I saw the text message...
Turkey considers chemical castration for pedophile child abusers. News DW 21.2018.
That the text of your monologues for the last 4 months will be used in a court of law to send people to jail.
If we have equal justice under the law... there will be people, a lot of them, that go to jail. True or false?
I think so, and I think the next shoe to drop in this, Sean, is going to be where those 302s change.
Europe is under siege by migrants. Lex Jones info hours. There is a warrant for your mind.
When you went out,
this is important. What Dan Bongino's saying here is pay very close attention, and you'll say, I was there when
you heard it.
Because this is going to come out.
When I was in the Secret Service, after you did an interview, you didn't have to fill out an official formal form. You just type it up on a Word document. The FBI has a form called a 302. That information on Mike Flynn and on the interviews of Hillary Clinton, there were 302s there. The big question's going to be, were those 302s changed? Because if the FBI agents in that room, and I know who both of them were,
why Syria and the U.S. clashed for control east of Euphrates, Syria deeply.
One of them at least came out of there with the opinion that Mike Flynn did not lie to them in that interview, someone's going to have a whole lot of answers.
What has happened to General Flynn is nothing short of a national disgrace.
It was horrible.
What they have done to him, horrible. Surveillance, unmasking, no minimization, and then, of course, leaking raw intelligence.
The jaywalking of
Florida school students and parents tearfully asked Trump to address gun violence have posted.
Prosecuted for the Logan Act.
You guys are great patriots. Great to see you at CPAC. We'll catch up.
Thanks, sir.
Give a big hand for these guys. Thank you.
We're going to be very strong on background checks. We'll be doing very strong background checks. Very strong emphasis on the mental health of somebody, and we are going to do plenty of other things. It's been going on too long, too many instances, and we're going to get it done.
This
solution is not
gun
going to be a
violence
singular
pleaded on
thing.
from
It's going to be
students. Parents the
multifaceted,
Denver
and
Post.
it's going to be created by a collection of different people working together. And
people are dying, and we have to stop this. We have to stop. If he's not old enough to buy a drink, to go and buy a beer,
I was something she watched Syria and then married to survive Syria deeply.
Fix it. Should have been one school shooting, and we should have
Suspects
fixed it.
arrested in theft, slaughter of pregnant Berlin petting zoo. Good News DW 92.2018.
Because my daughter I'm not going to see again.
President holding a very emotional listening session at the White House earlier today on the issue of school safety, mass shootings. Joining us now with reaction, Fox News contributor Tommy Lahren is with us, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk, and RNC spokesperson Harry McEnany are with us. To me, the solution is simple, is that every school should have a full threat assessment, security assessment, retired armed military, retired armed police need to be in the schools to be a front
Sweden
line
continues
of
to
defense.
obliterate itself. Alex Jones info hours there is a war on for
Well,
your
I think
mind.
that's the logical solution, but at any time of tragedy, it's filled with emotion. As
Shooting
it should
survivor
be.
Gabby
I think we
Gifford
should all
rolls
be
out
very
into
honest
an
with
attack in
ourselves.
Florida
This is a
governor.
tragic time, and we need to let the victims grieve. We need to let the families grieve. We need to let them speak. I think everybody.
I'll find out. I'll find it all out. I was sifting through some things and I found this. Photo shows accused Florida hash gunman, his brother holding Mama's ashes bar. New York Post. Check these digits. Thanks for contacting us. We've received your submission. By Larry Mizrahi and Max Yeager. February 21st, 2018 bar 4:37 p.m. bar updated February 21st, 2018 bar 4:54 p.m. The Post has obtained a photo of a Florida school shooter and his younger half-brother who has not been seen since he was involuntarily committed to a mental facility last Friday, entering their dead mother last year. Accused mass murderer Nicholas Cruz, 19, can be seen alongside brother Zachary, 18, according to a source who took the picture but asked to remain anonymous. Billy Graham, preacher to millions, advisor to U.S. presidents, dies at 99. Whoa. Reuters, U.S. evangelist Billy Graham, who counseled presidents and preached to millions across the world from his native North Carolina to communist North Korea during his 70 years in the pulpit, died on Wednesday at the age of 99, a spokesman said. Graham died at 8 a.m. Estate 1300 GMT, at his home in Montreat, North Carolina, according to Jeremy Bloom, a spokesman for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. According to his ministry, he preached Christianity to more people than anyone else in history, reaching hundreds of millions of people either in person or via TV and satellite links. Graham became the de facto White House chaplain to several U.S. presidents, most famously Richard Nixon. He also met with scores of world leaders and was the first noted evangelist to take his message behind the Iron Curtain. He was probably the dominant religious leader of his era, said William Martin, author of A Prophet with Honor. The Billy Graham story. No more than one or two popes, perhaps one or two other people, came close to what he achieved. Shooting survivor Gabby Giffords rolls out Antigone ad hash attacking Florida governor. Check this out, it's high energy. Gabby Giffords is calling out Florida Gov. Rick Scott over his inaction on gun violence and ties to the National Rifle Association a week after 17 people were killed in a school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Data reacted equals 15 former Congresswoman. And mass shooting survivor Gabby Giffords is calling out Florida Gov. Rick Scott over his inaction on gun violence and ties to the National Rifle Association a week after 17 people were killed in a school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Giffords rolled out an ad campaign against the governor on Tuesday, including what she called a six-figure ad buy, dire commercial targeting Scott. The 30-second ad opens with video from vigils for shooting victims in Florida, naming off Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and Parkland, in reference to the three mass shootings at Pulse nightclub in June 2016, the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport in January 2017 and Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School last week. Joe Biden, former Rep. Gabby Giffords blame Congress for not acting on gun violence. Data reacted equals 20 Joe Biden, former Rep. Gabby Giffords blame Congress for not acting on gun violence. Gabby Giffords calls on Republicans, Democrats to work together after GOP baseball shooting. Data reacted equals 21 Gabby Giffords calls on Republicans, Democrats to work together after GOP baseball shooting.
Senator Rubio, it's hard to look at you and not look down the barrel of an AR-15 and not look at Nicholas Cruz. But the point is, you're here, and
from my cold, dead hands. 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 From my cold, dead hands.
Materials de vida. CNN crowd widely cheers for bumping at CNN town hall students stand up.
From my cold, dead hands.
On Wednesday, CNN hosted a town hall in Florida in response to the recent school shooting. The theme of the evening had less to do with open the book. At Tiger Wolski. Marco Rubio gets eaten alive here. Absolutely amazing. At Columbia Bugle. Meyer Buntle to CNN Town Hall. Students stand up.
Truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first in the hearts of freedom's vanguard. The smoke in the air of our Concord bridges and Pearl Harbors is always smelled first by the farmers who come from their simple homes to find the fire and fight. Because they know that sacred stuff resides in that wooden stock and blued steel. Something that gives the most common man the most uncommon of freedoms. When ordinary hands can possess such an extraordinary instrument, that symbolizes the full measure of human dignity and liberty. That's why those 5 words issue an irresistible call to us all, and we must. So,
Facebook faces. My 10th grade geometry teacher was so old we couldn't even write on the chalkboard because his hands shook too much. If teachers needed to qualify to carry ampersand have combat training to teach, how much more will they be paid when reform note on armed teachers North Markland? At Kurt Eichenwald, at Mark Rubio, at Full of Scott. Rubio is getting slammed in the public meeting. But please remember at Mark Rubio, whatever you think of him, showed up at Full of Scott. Rick Scott, who led the largest healthcare fraud in American history, is hiding in the governor's mansion like the coward he is. At Real Zikist, at Enshokat. Anti-attention PLSHLP a brother and birthday mate. The doctor said that treatment for this my ailment is 20k. At Piscott Antonio. Dear fake news, David Hogg never attended Parkland High School. He ampersand I went to school at Redondo Shores High School, California. He graduated in 2015. Here he is in our yearbook from 2015. He always wanted to be an actor or work for CNN Media Malpractice. At Muslim Meek. We need gun control. Anyone who says different. I am Callan B.S. Broward County Sheriff Scott is real. Hey, Blue Lives Matter folks. You still support our police, right? To local town hall students stand up. At JJ Gravity, retweet and I will distort your profile pic. At The Kitchenista. I vote for letting the young people take over these town halls going forward. At The Kitchenista. I also hope to see black and brown kids getting the same platforms going forward to air their grievances and process their grief. At The Hill. Florida lawmakers vote to declare porn a public health risk after rejecting bill banning assault weapons. At Talons 918. I am a teacher. I do not want to be armed. I am not trained, and shooting a gun is not part of who I am. Guns around students is a bad idea. We are trained to teach, support and care for kids, not to shoot a gun. Ban all weapons. At Girls Real Rule. Nurse spokeswoman Dana Loesch pivoting into synchronizing federal and state databases as the real problem, when the Parkland shooter had no convictions or flags to catch by either. Students stand up.
That was like directly from notes, and I want to thank you for that. Second of all, I had a thing I was going to say. Happens to the best of us. All right. Dana Loesch, I want you to know that we will support your two children in the way that you will not. The shooter at our school obtained weapons that he used on us legally. Do you believe that it should be harder to obtain the semi-automatic and weapons and the modifications for these weapons to make them fully automatic like bump stocks?
Well, first off, Emma, I want to applaud you for standing up and speaking out. And for anyone who has ever criticized you or any of these students up here, including people who have been on my side of this issue, I don't think that anyone should deny you your voice or deny you your position because you are young.
We want to thank you for that.
I was a very politically active teenager. And I'm on this stage as a result of that. Think of how far you all could go as a result of voicing your beliefs. Now, I want to answer your question, and I want to be allowed the opportunity, which is why I am here, to talk and have this discussion with you all and answer these questions. This is why I came down here. I don't believe that this insane monster should have
On Wednesday, CNN hosted a town hall in Florida in response to the recent school shooting. The theme of the evening had less to do with open the book.
Una embarcación de, al parecer, ultramar. Hay al menos
White and flat are probably the two adjectives that first spring to mind when you hear the word paper. But a number of local artists came together to create breathtaking paper sculptures that easily shatter our preconceptions about how paper is viewed and used. Everything is covered in white snow in Wonju, Gangwon-do province. This winter, there seems to be no better place to enjoy nature and culture than the museum's Han, which presents a variety of extraordinary paper sculptures by several local artists.
종이는 기본적으로 우리가 평면 재료라고 생각을 하고 있기 때문에 이 평면 재료가 어떻게 형태성을 띠게 되는가, 작가들의 어떤 창의성, 작가들의 조형성을 저희가 이번 전시를 통해서 좀 살펴보려고 했습니다.
The
Dozens
exhibition
of girls free from
consists of 3
suspected Boko Haram
galleries.
kidnapping. News
In the first gallery, the
DW21.2018.
participating artists explore various types of space and people living in those spaces.
Friends presents new
by
immigration bill. News
accentuating the unique features and
21.2018.
textures of paper under the theme of space. As the title, The Island's Psychological Space, implies, a host of structures made of paper are hung mid-air, as if they are small islands floating in the sea. The space filled with these paper objects, that is neither fully land or entirely water, symbolizes the unconscious world.
한 사람의 개인을 어떻게 보면 섬이라고 제가 상징적으로 비유를 한 거죠. 우리가 굉장히 서로 교류하고 같이 살아가고 있지만 우리 내면이 가지고 있는 외로움이나 고독, 언어나 다른 것들로 소통하지 못하는 그런 외로움이 있지 않습니까? 이제 그것들을
View detection challenge. Help the Pentagon analyze satellite images wired.
The paper structures seem like different parts of a human body or a representation of our society.
각각의 형태들이 제 상하 대칭의 형태로 되어 있습니다. 그런데 마치 전체적인 모습을 보시면 버려진 도시나 사람이 더 이상
Germany deports more ejected Afghan asylum seekers. News DW21.2018.
가볍기 때문에 관객들이 지나가면서 일어나는 그 바람, 공기의 움직임에 따라서 조금씩 움직이거든요. 조금 더 불안한 느낌, 그런 것들도 좀 드러날 수 있는 것 같습니다.
Fedez Kashkari is German is doing fighting from Reuters website. News DW22.2018. Telegram is holding a secretive second pre-eco sale.
Communication. For a long time, people have used paper to write letters or draw pictures to communicate with others. Paper is inarguably the most effective and powerful communication tool to deliver information
You
or
need
share
a personal
emotions.
genetics test to take charge of your health
The
wired.
way how artist E.T. Han uses books in the creation
Volunteer
of a work
census
of
counts
art
at least
catches
3,000
our
homeless in
eyes.
Paris, France. 24.
He tears apart books and reassembles the little pieces to create everyday scenes and landscapes. Besides books, he makes use of photographs or sheet music.
재료는 역시 이제 책을 조금씩 찢어서 한 20여 개 쌓아 올린 텍스트들로 보여지는 드로잉인데, 주위에 있는 어떤 책의 텍스트를 가지고 이미지를 표현한다는 것은 결국 가장 현실적인 어떤 우리 시대 풍경을 표현한 것이 아니겠나라는 생각에서 그렇게 표현한 작업이라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다.
When books are torn apart, they lose their original content, forms, and eventually identity. The fragments of books are reconstructed into something new with a different form and function. Maybe it describes how people of today often fail to find their true self.
In Homs, Assad accused of using military for urban planning Syria deeply.
고정관념으로 이렇게 대상으로 우리가
How Russia benefits from Turkey's saffron operation Syria deeply.
노동이라든가 그다음에 아이디어로서 소통에서 멀어진 오래된 책들이 이게 어떤 예술적인 시각적인 오브제로 변하면서 이미지로 새롭게 부활한다 할까요?
Under the theme of reason and property, the third gallery emphasizes that works of art are the products of deep reasoning and thinking of an artist. Here, the audience will have a chance to take a glimpse at stunning artworks, which aesthetically bring out the physical properties of paper.
Alex Jones InfoHours, there is a warrant for your mind.
작품이라는 게 그렇게 많은 생각 그리고 많은 거를 표현하려고 노력하지 않아도 된다. 오히려 가장 단순한 것에서 가장 많은 의미가 담겨 있다. 색을 칠한다거나 뭐 박을 입혔다거나 라기보다는 있는 그대로의 종이에 최소한의 간섭을 통해서 과연 종이가 맞나 의심이 들 정도로 어떤 새롭고 재미있는 것을 보여줄 수 있어서 이 공간의 제목을 사유와 물성으로 정했습니다.
Even in the age of the digital media, paper will remain one of the primary communication tools to deliver our thoughts, ideas, and emotions. Every day, paper takes new forms and is reborn as art in the hands of countless artists across the world.
작가들이 펼쳐놓은 작업을 보고
Australian Prime Minister to bring up China Trans-Pacific trade deal during Trump talks.
상상하지 못했던 것들을 가지고도 이만한 풍부한 상상을 할 수 있다는
Hackers
것을
hijacked Tesla's behind tragic currency photos of everyday life in former East Germany RCW 16.2018.
좋은 기회가 되지 않을까 이렇게 생각을 하고 있습니다.
In the exhibition Paper Taking Shape, Paper Sculpture, a group of talented artists take paper art to the next level, expanding the possibilities of paper as art material under the themes of space, communication, and reason and property. It seems more than worthwhile to take a fresh look at paper, one of the most undervalued communication
Measles cases
tools
soaring in Europe.
due to
Who warns
its
News
abundance.
DW 19.2018. News and current affairs from Germany and around the world DW.
The systematic simplified geometric shapes embrace intense colors to create captivating patterns. The mastermind behind these incredible patterns is none other than designer Kim Young-na, whose specialty is to combine different shapes and colors to come up with a new pattern.
Critical patients in Eastern Ghouta used as bargaining chips Syria deeply.
designer Kim Young-na's studio is filled with a variety
Two
of
French soldiers killed by explosive device in Mali, France 24.
Stickers and adhesive tapes. To Kim, they are precious items from which she draws her inspirations for art.
나름의 규칙을 갖고 생산된 물건들이 제가 어떤 다른 규칙을 적용해서 그
At 37 inside the toolset of an elite North Korean hacker group wired.
굉장히 흥미로웠어요. 그냥 스티커 한 채를 이렇게 세로로 대각선으로 잘라서 다시 형태를 만든 거거든요. 컬러 배열과 형태 배열이 어떠냐에 따라 조금 항상 다른 조합이 나오는데 그때 제 기준에 생각되는 어떤 규칙이 맞아 떨어졌을 때 그때를 좀 완결된 지점이라고 생각을 하고 이렇게 이제 다시 파일링을 하는.
Kim brings out interesting elements of the everyday items and rearranges or combines them to design geometric patterns that are completely different from the existing ones. Complex elements and structures are broken down into simple yet fascinating patterns and colors at the hands of Kim. Then how did a graphic designer like Kim start making patterns?
제가 2006년도에 대학원을 가게 됐는데요. 네덜란드에서 바로 이제 컴퓨터.
Germany as far right after overtakes social democrats in poll news DW 192.2018.
책을 만들고 어떻게 폰트를 쓰고 어떻게 선을 쓰고 형태를 만들면 되겠다 해서 이제 자랑스럽게 작업을 해갔더니 너는 작업하는 방식을 잊어버려야 되겠다라고 얘기하시더라고요. 그래서 저는 그때부터 손으로 뭔가를 해보려는 시도를 많이 했었고 그리고 그게 이미지를 만들어내는 어떤 작업보다 훨씬 더 저한테는 매력적인 훈련 방식? 이런 느낌이 들었어요.
Kim's portfolio book, Set, contains 10 years' worth of work. The book is a compilation of her pattern designs. It's been a few years since she has brought them out of the book to introduce them to the world. In Kim's Set series, the 2D patterns decorate the 3D space, including boards, panels, and walls. Her patterns may appear to be disorderly at first glance, but they have their own rules and systems.
이 작업은 제 셋이라는 연작의 9번째 작업으로 작년에 타이포 잔치와 서울 아트스테이션이 협력을 해서 지하철 역사를 전시 공간으로 개조를 해서 이제 설치하게 된 작업이에요. 그 공간이 가져다 주는 맥락이 상당히 중요하게 되는데요. 이 경우에는 머무르기보다는 이제 여기서 지나치는 공간이기 때문에 짧은 시간에 인상적인 이미지를 얻길 원했었어요. 그리고 사람들의 움직임이라든지 행동하는 방식들을 패턴화시켜서 만들어 보려고 했습니다.
Almost all of the patterns from Kim's portfolio book are brought to life in different forms and shapes through collaboration projects and exhibitions.
제가 쌓아갈 수 있는 어떤 플랫폼이 생긴 게 저는 좀 재밌는 것 같아요. 최근에 베드 시트를 디자인을 했었거든요. 이게 베개인데요. 근데 이런 경우도 사실 말하자면 어떤 지면을 채우는 거와 크게 다르진 않죠. 제가 사용할 수도 있고 또 누군가가 일상생활에서 자주 접할 수 있는 어떤 사물을 만든다는 거는 거기서 오는 즐거움 같은 것들이 있었던 것 같아요.
One might be surprised to find her name as an Artist of the Year at an award ceremony or in an exhibition, but Kim claims to be a graphic designer. Kim's name is known from Amsterdam to Seoul, as she has worked as an art director for numerous posters and magazines based on graphic design. Kim gained fame in Korea, especially after landing a job as an editor and art director at local quarterly magazine Graphic, which is considered the Bible for design students.
제가 원하는 어떤 주제
I need to know more. I hate going into the deep dark parts of the internet. This is amazing. The government's ongoing offensive on Idlib province has already displaced thousands of civilians, many of whom previously fled violence in other areas, writes Cole Bockenfeld of the International Rescue Committee. We tested out this hotel robot in Singapore. Or at MMH Social. I can't believe it. Robots may be gradually entering the workforce, but as CNBC recently found after testing a hotel robot in Singapore, they are not completely flawless. CNBC ordered a few items to room at the M Social Hotel from Aura, the hotel's new robot. Aura is made by a San Francisco-based manufacturer, Savioke, which has dispatched other robots to several locations around the world. Aura is not capable of delivering food items yet, so we ordered several bottled waters and towels. As a hotel guest, the experience was relatively seamless. The only notable flaw was when Aura indecisively turned in circles in front of our hotel room after the delivery was made before finally cruising back down the hallway toward the elevators. But during a separate trip in which CNBC followed Aura from its charging station in the lobby to the hotel room, things weren't completely smooth. Oil at Japan shores is likely from sunken Iranian tanker. Japan Coast Guard. G. Willikers. Oily matter that reached 2 islands in southern Japan is highly likely to come from a sunken Iranian tanker, given its similarity to oil floating near the tanker and the lack of other oil spills in the area, the Japan Coast Guard said on Thursday. The Sankey tanker sank in the East China Sea last month in the world's worst such disaster in decades, and Japan has been checking the impact on the environment and marine ecosystem. The Coast Guard said seawater samples from 14 different locations in offshore southern Japan detected no oil pollution from the sunken tanker. Comparisons of seawater samples taken before and after the tanker incident showed no change in oil content, it added. Trump opened to arming teachers after Florida high school shooting. Bar News Bar DW Bar 2022.2018. Check this out, it's high energy. As President Trump has told survivors and relatives of a Florida school shooting that he will consider arming teachers. He also pledged to introduce mental health and age checks for gun buyers. From Arizona to Washington, D.C., students have walked out of classrooms to protest gun violence after the deadly shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. 17 students were killed when a former student walked onto the premises and opened fire using an AR-15 rifle. Many of the students held signs reading "Never Again" and "End Gun Violence." Teenagers at some of the schools called for the AR-15 and similar assault rifles to be banned for civilian use, saying they should be reserved for the armed forces. Others called for stricter measures to acquire arms. "Innocent people are dying because of the easy access to firearms in this country," said one student. Over the past decade, the U.S. has witnessed several deadly mass shootings, including in Las Vegas, Orlando and Sandy Hook. Many students view the Parkland shooting as part of inaction by lawmakers to curb access to guns. They send out their thoughts and their prayers, and we appreciate that, but that's enough, said one student. We need change. But not all educators were supportive of the students. Life is all about choices and every choice has a consequence whether it be positive or negative, said Superintendent Curtis Rhodes of Texas, Needville Independent School District. We will discipline. No matter if it is 1, 50 or 500 students involved, LS/SMS app, of Germany's far-right Ashaft overtakes Social Democrats in poll bar news bar DW bar 19.2018. I hate going into the deep dark parts of the internet. The populist Alternative for Germany AfD has overtaken the Social Democrats SPD in a national opinion poll for the first time. The news comes as the SPD begins a crucial vote on a coalition with Angela Merkel. A poll published on behalf of German tabloid Bild has found that 16% of voters would choose the right-wing, anti-immigrant Alternative for Germany AfD, half 8% more than those who would vote for the Social Democrats SPD. The figures released by the INSA Polling Institute show the speed in free fall. Germany's oldest political party has seen its polling figures plummet even further since it garnered just 20.5% of the votes in September's federal election, its worst result in the post-war era. DW political correspondent Thomas Sparrow described the poll as a bombshell, and part of a larger trend that sees traditional parties losing ground to the anti-immigrant AfD. Let's not forget that the AfD entered the German parliament for the first time in September. They became Germany's third most important force political in the parliament and they tap essentially into people's fears, Sparrow told DW television. We are talking here about immigration, about their suspicions regarding the establishment, the established political parties. That's one of the reasons why they had been able to take some of those voters away from both the Conservatives and the Social Democrats. At office. Break into the job market with your best resume. Check out Resume Assistant in Word to get started.
Anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
At Usblum. Happening now, hundreds of students across Tallahassee, Florida march against gun violence. This is what democracy looks like. Never again. At George Addertrode, at Fox News. So at Fox News is talking to crazy sector David Hugg. Looks like everyone wants in on the fake news action nowadays. America deserves better. Stop spreading lies, fake news sucks. At TT45 Pack. In a loving memory, a reflection on the life of Rev. Billy Graham, the Christian evangelist who was one of the best known religious figures of his time. Rev. Billy Graham, rest in heaven.
Was deafening across Union Station. NRA can't stop the PTA. Enough is enough, and gun control now. The chants that were echoing across the station right there. The overarching chorus is that what happened in Florida affects all the students here. Take a listen.
We're all in the same country. We're all Americans. All of us are being affected by this. And when one of us dies from a bullet, you know, all of us are affected.
So what started out as a couple hundred students soon turned into thousands of students within the span of about 20 minutes here. Police closed First Street as everybody made their way to the Capitol, and we had colleagues from the United States Senate texting us as the march was going on that they could be heard from 4 blocks away. Clearly their message heard loud and clear. That's the latest here at Union Station. Mike Valerio, WUSA 9.
Where they're from, anybody who's willing to start to make a difference is somebody we need on our side here. And this is about people who are for making a difference to save us and people who are against it and prefer money. So, Senator Rubio, can you tell me right now that you will not accept a single donation from the NRA in the future? I wish I could have asked the NRA lady a question. I wish the NRA lady I could have talked to, because I would ask her how she can look in the mirror, considering the fact that she has children, but, you know, maybe she avoids those.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I don't freaking know.
It's okay.
The question is about NRA money.
So, number one, the positions I hold on these issues of the Second Amendment, I've held since the day I entered office in the city of West Miami as an elected official. Number two, no, the answer to the question is that people buy into my agenda. And I do support the Second Amendment. And I also support the right of you and everyone here to be able to go to school and be safe. And I do support any law that would keep guns out of the hands of a deranged killer. And that's why I support the things that I have stood for and fought for during my time there.
NRA money, more NRA money.
That is the wrong way to look. First of all, the answer is people buy into my agenda.
At Olympicano. Go beyond us no % story like my Doritos attempt at landing the impossible move.
The influence of
At Olympics, at Timos, at Olerigni, at Usahog, at Timusa strikes first. The beautiful redirect by at Olerigni puts the at Usahog to win 1-0 in the gold medal game. Winter Olympics.
As I said, the more power plays you have, the less you... When you don't score, you get tense. Hillary Knight had a tip-in power play goal in the semifinals, and here's another one. She parks herself right in front of Zabados. Watch this. She stands right there. And look, Zabados is even giving her a little bit of little shove. Get out.
At Democrats. Sheriff Scott Israel is right. The best way to bring about change is to vote.
Get it done, but you will get it done. Vote in people who feel the same way you do.
At Real Savira. Average number of deaths in the U.S. per day: abortions 1,778, medical errors 687, accidents 401, drunk driving 28, knives 4.4, rifles 1, students stand up. At Tiger Wolski. Rubio says you would literally have to ban every semi-automatic rifle as if it were a bad thing. Instead, crowd goes wild. Oops.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That is a valid position to hold. But my colleagues do not support banning every semi-automatic rifle sold in America.
I believe that the idea that a gunman like this could march down the halls of Stoneman Douglas High School and fire off 150 rounds in 6 or 7 minutes, that gun should be banned. There is no reason that anybody should own one of them.
And that is a very valid point. But my point is that under the law that you support, there would still be 2,000 guns that were legal that could do the exact same thing.
Well, then let's sit down and figure out what they are so that we can ensure people...
I know, but look, this is an important discussion because now you're seeing what the debate is about the assault weapons ban. And I just ask, are you in favor of banning any gun that can do what the AR-15 can do? Yes or no?
I am in favor, Senator Rubio, if you have a concern about something, let me just answer this question because it's important.
It is. That's the whole debate.
Yeah, and the answer to the question is, do I support banning weapons that fire off 150 rounds in 7 to 8 minutes, weapons that are weapons of war that serve no purpose other than killing the maximum number of people they can? You bet I am.
Okay.
This is Milo Yiannopoulos filling in for Alex Jones. And if you'd like to speak to me, you can call us. Call the number right now. It is 877-789-2539. That's 877-789-2539 or 877-789-ALEX. And after this segment, in the final segment, I'm going to be taking your calls for the whole 10 minutes. We'll get through as many of you as you can, as many questions as you can. Call in if you'd like political questions answered or maybe some dating advice. If you just want to abuse me or perhaps pay me a nice compliment about my hair, any subject is fine. Call us. The number is 877-789-2539 if you want to speak to me in the final segment of the day. InfoWars would also like me to let you know that for a limited time only, and the sale's ending soon, Super Blue products, which are InfoWars' best-selling line of products, or one of the best-selling lines of products, fortified with colloidal silver and iodine to give you a fluoride-free smile. You've been worried about what they're putting in the water. These are for you. We're going to have to take the sale down in a few days. They want me to let you know, and they're almost sold out. It'll be at least a month before we can get Super Blue back at its low price. So there's no time to wait. Make sure to get yours now at InfoWarsStore.com. That's InfoWarsStore.com.
News and current affairs from Germany and around the world. DW.
50% off. Cellforce, 53% off. Running out of stock fast. Red pills. They actually sell real red pills here, by the way, which I found the funniest thing ever.
Trump opened to arming teachers after Florida high school shooting. News DW 22.2018.
Pollen block, 50% off. And various other things. Go and check it out, InfoWarsStore.com. And that number again, if you want to call us, is 877-789-ALEX. Let's move on. We've seen her video, the dogged determination of the most hated woman on the internet. Not really, but you do have you do have a hell of a troll army after you, for which I can only congratulate you. Well done. You're obviously doing
German
something
doctor wins
right.
right to remove name from rating website. News DW 22.2018.
Indefatigable, unstoppable, bloodhound. Laura Loomer up there in Florida, nosing around, and we have some news to break.
YouTube and Facebook trending tools highlighted Parkland conspiracy theories. Wired.
What happened?
Well, yesterday I confronted
Macron's French language initiative meets resistance from French speakers. France 24.
Proponent here in Florida who's really just taking advantage of this tragedy, really, to promote his own agenda. And I confronted him at a gun grabber meeting. And then when I, posted the video on my Twitter along with InfoWars, I received a message this morning saying that I had a 7-day ban on my Twitter. So I can't put out all of this information, and I feel like they're really trying to just limit my expose of what's taking place here in Florida, because not only do you have
French government unveils tougher asylum rules in new bill. France 24.
Like CNN actively coaching these students whose parents are tied to globalist organizations like the FBI, for example, and they're giving them talking points. And it's a lot of these left-wing corporations and media companies, including Twitter, who are in on this.
It's the teachers too. You told me before we came on air in the last break that one of the teachers at the school is potentially getting himself into trouble by telling students to show up at things. Tell us about that.
At 37 inside the toolset of an elite North Korean hacker group. Wired.
It doesn't really seem like they're willing to hold people accountable anywhere here.
If it were a just world.
If it were a just world. But there's an individual by the name of Sarah Lerner, and she's a journalism and English teacher at the high school here in Parkland, Florida. And she's violating the Florida Code of Conduct for teachers by texting
Winter Olympics 2018, the physics of blazing fast bobsled runs wired.
In the era of like teacher sex scandals, you're not supposed to be teaching or texting students on their personal cell phone numbers.
But is he getting those numbers from their like confidential student records, or
yes,
is it?
I believe so, because a lot of students are receiving different numbers from different text messages from different teachers.
Who shares their phone number with their
You
teacher?
don't need a personal genetics test to take charge of your health, wired.
You don't give your cell phone number to your science teacher.
That's the other
Stasi Archive says it has no file on it. Play our leader Jeremy Corbyn News DW 2012.2018
in Florida, and the fact that those records are supposed to be confidential and they're now being used and harvested by these very liberal anti-Trump teachers who are using it to push gun control. I mean, I think the school deserves to be investigated. I think that the school deserves to be investigated, because at this point in time, they're leaking confidential information about students.
What has upset me, and I take a disinterested perspective on many things, but I don't have children myself, but I'm not a monster. And
Fedez Kashkaris and Sheriff Trump has $1.5 trillion tax cuts will boost investment.
What makes me horrified now that I have that presence in my extended family, you know, like a kid that...
How Russia benefits from Turkey's saffron operation Syria deeply.
You want to nurture and lead through a good life. You want to teach them to be thoughtful and have integrity, make up their own minds about things, and to be educated, is the way that left-wingers are increasingly leveraging children in their propaganda wars. And this is, you know, the perfect storm for them in a way. You came on my show earlier this week and suggested not that the FBI had a hand
Reverend
in this.
Billy Graham passes away at 99. Alex Jones info hours. There is a warrant for your mind.
Why authorities in different branches of government are perhaps
why Syria and the U.S. clashed for control east of Euphrates. Syria deeply.
These people off the streets. I mean, this guy, was it 39 times the cops were called to his house? The FBI knew about him, but they didn't stop him from doing this. Now, nobody's saying that they knew when and where and how it was going to go down, but they knew about him, and they presumably could have done something to make people around him safer, and they didn't. Talk to us about why you think, is there an incentive, is there a reason why the FBI
life under siege, how people struggle to survive in eastern Syria deeply.
Getting these people the treatment they need, or just incarcerating them when they're
Youthfully, it's been national anthem %. Guns Alex Jones info hours. There is a warrant for your mind.
What's that? What is the FBI thinking? Like, not.
How far will Trump go on gun control? Alex Jones info hours. There is a warrant for your mind.
Tied up with this bogus Russia investigation. What is happening over there?
Well, I think there's two things that's happening. I think that they're too busy having affairs and sleeping with people who aren't their husbands or wives. And I think that they're too busy texting people and accusing Trump of being involved in Russia and all of this nonsense that we've seen taking place at the FBI over the past year or two. But the thing that's more concerning and most disturbing to me, in my opinion, is the fact that this is a pattern, right? We see it with the Fort Hood shooter. We saw it with the terrorists who shot up the gay club in Orlando. We saw it with
how Turkey has potential Afrin push measures up against Syria deeply.
Lists of terrorists and mass shooters throughout the past year or two.
How de-escalation zones in Syria became a war management strategy. Syria deeply.
Known by the FBI prior to committing their attacks or acts of terrorism. So I personally wonder if the FBI has some type of benefit being the propaganda arm for the Democratic Party that they have become and proven themselves to be by not taking out these threats to society, so that when they do commit acts of violence with guns, the Democrats can immediately politicize the tragedy and call for gun control, even though the FBI is probably working hand in hand with the Democratic Party, as we've seen on more than just one issue, besides, targeting Trump and committing treason against our commander-in-chief.
Laura Luma, up there in Florida. Thank you for joining us. Laura, this does seem to be part of a, I have a little saying on my show.
Sweden continues to obliterate itself. Alex Jones InfoWars, there is a war on for your mind.
Consternation and confusion and fury of liberals everywhere, whether it's gay frogs, and it turns out actually amphibians do go trans,
oil at Japan shores is likely from sunken Iranian tanker Japan Coast Guard
in the water. Daily Mail reported that, and I mentioned that last time I was on this show. Or it's the skepticism with which he has always regarded the intelligence community. Now it seems that that healthy sense of critical distance is rippling out among the public at large. It seems to me that the big trend of 2018, the red thread running through this year's news reports, and the big development is not going to be Me Too or Hollywood, but rather an increasing skepticism and even hatred of our own intelligence agencies.
Political thriller Master Custody Gavras at 85 Film DW 12.2018.
And a very dangerous place to live. 877-789-2539 if you want to talk to me after the segment. The show's almost over today. I'm sorry to tell you, we're running out of time. Call us if you want to be on the phones. We're going to be right back after a few commercial messages, taking your calls on any subject you like. Go wild. We'll be right back. He's the gentle giant. He's Uncle Alex to Trump's daddy. Alex Jones off gallivanting, doing whatever international men of mystery and truth-seeking do. I am Milo Yiannopoulos, standing in for Alex Jones. Last segment of the last hour of the show.
The Syrian doctor building an underground hospital for women in Syria deeply.
And before we take calls, we've got time for a couple of calls. Let me remind
Trump
you
for background
about
checks,
InfoWars Life's
mental health
IQ.
screens for gun buyers.
Here we go. The best endorsement I can give you, because I'm very careful about what I put
Newsweek
inside
recycles
myself.
the Al Franken lies. Alex Jones InfoWars, there is a war on for your
We'll make that
mind.
joke, actually. We go out on the radio, don't we? Oh, let's do it. There we go. Milk thistle extract, 600 milligrams of it. More toxins and diseases find their way into your system. More important it is that your body's detox systems can keep up. And the liver and the kidneys are the ones who bear the brunt of all of your smoking,
2 French soldiers killed by explosive device in Mali, France 24.
Terrible things that you people do to your bodies while you're listening to InfoWars, guzzling down Jim Beam and chain smoking. Well,
How Facebook uses I for suicide prevention.
some milk thistle extract, some N-acetylcysteine, some amla fruit,
No light at the end of the tunnel in eastern Ghouta Sparo, Syria
I thought they
deeply.
were making these up because they didn't sound like real things to me, but I've looked them up and they are. It's like when you get the yoga hobbyists.
Analysis a model for rebuilding infrastructure in northwestern Syria deeply.
Roots and things. They are real things. Liver and kidneys take care of you, so take care of them.
Trump endorses guns for teachers to stop shootings, BBC News.
Dangerous toxins, and so on and so forth. Powerful set of ingredients, including milk.
Italy warns of influence campaigns ahead of key elections. News DW 21 2.2018.
Function in the body with a complete 30-day liver cleanse. Pick up one of these. I'll do it myself, and I'll report back and let you know how I got on. This is the Alex Jones Show on InfoWars. I'm Milo Yiannopoulos, standing in for Alex Jones in this last segment. Thank you to everybody who called in. We are going to go straight to Joe, who is on the line now, wants to talk to us about... What is it you want to talk to us about, Joe? I can't
Why
remember.
Turkey says it is ready to go to war with Syria over Afrin WSJ.
Ah, yes, perfect. Drugging our young boys. Welcome to the show.
Who has innocent Syrians' blood on their hands? The New York Times.
Yes, sir. I've been listening to the show for a couple
Ex-employees
years now.
whose Google over
It's
firing,
definitely
charging
got me woke.
discriminations paid.
I want to say that being active duty military, we get forced to drink a lot of water.
Yes.
And drinking fluoridated water has definitely had an impact on my health. But as soon as I switched to the Alexa Pures, I've got 2 of them right now, and I've never felt better. My water is very pure. It makes your whole body feel good. And I'm a big
Men's,
fan
North
of all
Korea
the
planned
InfoWars
secret
Life
Olympic meet
products.
in France
I have
24.
tried the carnivore, the whey protein, the brain force, definitely the X2, and I've never run into a product that I had any problems with or was not very, very high standards.
Well, there we go. It's a much higher and more powerful and more persuasive endorsement than mine. There we go. Active duty. Thank you very much for that. Talk to us about. We're running out of time in this final segment. So talk to us a little bit about drugging kids.
British lawmakers are launching an inquiry into cryptocurrencies.
We're all big fan of yours, My Work Center.
Thank you.
You've got all these mass shootings, and every single time there's a common thread is SSRIs. But nobody with any power is trying to change this except the right. The left is more than happy to just let this continue and let all the drugged out people eventually snap, which is what these drugs are doing.
It does seem to be the case, doesn't it? It does seem to be the case that these drugs are having unforeseen
Republican
effects
Congresswoman, many
on
mass
young
murderers
men
are Democrats.
who at some point suddenly start losing it a little bit and commit these terrible acts. You must have noticed from being in the armed forces this culture-wide suppression and demonization of masculinity. Masculinity being that essential quality that not only keeps us safe, that is essential to the proper functioning of the armed forces, of law enforcement, and everything else, but also drives us to excel, drives us to explore, drives us to invent, properly channeled.
Fed gives bullish signals on economy WSJ.
Appreciated and enjoyed. Men are wonderful, and men and women, different, complementary, equally fantastic in their own
On
ways.
Security Council to meet over Syria's East Ghouta on Thursday, Sputnik International.
Demonization of men in culture. And it finds its highest expression
Turkey most talks to avoid war as Russia and US allies chant on Syria.
Have you seen that happen over the last few years? People sort of constantly bashing the very men who keep us safe.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, this demonization of the manly cut figure, the old-fashioned kind
Bill
of
Gates has paid $10 billion in taxes and says he should pay more.
silent type. You don't see that anymore. And if you're like that, the left and the liberals demonize it like it's a thing of the past. It's a dinosaur. They want it to die so that we can open the borders and bring in
Fair,
Islamic
read Explain Wall Street as erratic mood overcome.
and we can throw our Second Amendment down the drain and be completely disarmed when the government goes full 1984 and wants to infringe on our very rights.
Lots of stuff going on right now. Let me see if I can pinpoint anything. Check this out, it's high energy. Democrats didn't even dream of this Pennsylvania map. How did it happen? The New York Times. I hate going into the deep dark parts of the internet. They seemed not to believe that they would be allowed to strive for partisan balance in addressing Republican gerrymandering. Few people expected that the Pennsylvania congressional map, which the state Supreme Court ordered redrawn to undo Republican gerrymandering, would prove to be as favorable to Democrats as the one adopted by the court on Monday. Perhaps the easiest way to convey the cause for surprise. The new map is better for Democrats by nearly every measure than the maps that Democrats themselves propose. How could that be? It is hard to explain. Perhaps all four Democratic map proposals reflected an earnest effort to reach a compromise with Republicans. The more likely explanation is that Democrats did not believe it was realistic to demand such a favorable map, since it would require a series of Democratic-leaning choices. And the court order did not specify that the maps should aim for partisan balance, which might have justified a more Democratic map.
Selling our
At MEETIS Speaks. KKK groups dwindle as white nationalism becomes hip in 2017 report App News. At MEETIS Speaks. Uber launches express pool to conquer the commute wired. At Ancestry. Our winter sale is waiting. What will you discover? Ends 225. Excludes taxes and % shipping. At MEETIS Speaks. Trump open to arming teachers after Florida high school shooting. News DW 22 2.2018. At MEETIS Speaks. Weather forecast world M% local weather report online Sky News. At MEETIS Speaks. German doctor wins right to remove name from rating website news DW22.2018. At MEETIS Speaks. The Syrian doctor building an underground hospital for women in Syria deeply. At MEETIS Speaks. UNICEF 4 in 5 newborn deaths preventable news DW22.2018. At Meanest Woman, at Julie Reisleren. Thank you to at Julie Reisleren and the team over at the US Take You podcast. I had a blast talking about how to be a gladiator for good and how women can unleash our power and make lasting change. At MEETIS Speaks. German prisons 150 dangerous Islamists need de-radicalizing. State Police News DW212.2018. At MEETIS Speaks. Newsweek recycles the Al Franken lies Alex Jones info hours there is a war on for your mind. At MEETIS Speaks. Fresh Nazi songbook scandal hits Austrian far-right Freedom Party News DW22.2018. At MEETIS Speaks. Gap Brain CEO stepping down Alex Jones info hours there is a war on for your mind. At MEETIS Speaks. No light at the end of a tunnel in eastern Ghouta Sparo Syria deeply. At MEETIS Speaks. Germany announces new hunting rules to combat African swine flu news DW212.2018.